I'm going to call the Foster Town Council February 22nd meeting to order. If everyone would please stand to pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could have a moment of silence. Connie Pulowski passed away today. A very well-loved teacher, and her husband, Mr. Pulowski, has been very involved with our recreation. So if we could have a moment of silence for Connie. Thank you. Public comment. Mrs. Ryder. And you know you have to go and push the button and.
Michael.
No, sign up.
Mike, you want to speak?
Not now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. A couple of things. Number one, I had a call from Ed Robinson today, and Preservation has cameras downstairs, and I guess they some people, men with long sticks, doing something, don't know what, measuring something, testing something. I have no clue. Oh.
They're testing the fire system today. The
Oh,
long sticks were everywhere, all through town hall and I believe the townhouse.
okay. Well, Ed and just asked that if that's going to happen, they were ready to call the police. So if they could just have a heads up, I know, but you don't know. So, oh, well. The other thing is, we came across, which would have been a fantastic grant for the townhouse. Unfortunately, too late. It was for the semi-quincentennial, and it would have been 750,000 with no matching funds. However, the deadline, by the time I saw it, was March 5th, and the application required extensive detail from someone, a preservationist, exactly what had to be done, what you were going to restore it to, and would it be compliant with the particular era of that building, and also then justify your changes with the service standards. Preservation, very involved. They also wanted an engineering study. Which just too many. If it was just people filling out papers, we could have done that. But so what preservation was wondering is, I don't know if that money is still around the townhouse. I know there was extra set aside fund, but if you have kind of thing done, and then no matter, you'd have to raise the prices a little bit, but so have it ready. Okay, I won't. Okay, I won't.
There was money set aside for capital for the townhouse.
Right.
Specifically for, I believe, you being put on the federal register.
Right.
Is that correct?
Right.
That money's still available, so if the town council wanted to reassign that for this purpose, I don't see why you couldn't use it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just felt nobody's going to do that kind of work free, because they did want it for that amount of money, they want a lot of detail. And just to have it so that if something comes our way again, we can hit the road running. Okay, thank you.
Again, it was about 13,000 if I'm remembering, okay?
Thank you. Can you shut it off? Thank you.
No other public comment.
No other public
Can
comment.
I ask a question?
Oh, they just didn't know to sign. I didn't
know I
had to sign.
Okay.
Is that, so that's what you were asking about?
Yes.
Yes, I will allow you to come up and sign. I'm sorry. Can you see? Okay. Can you come up to that
And,
Push your button. and then you have to state your name and address.
Okay,
Thank you.
Susan Joyce, 90A Windsor Road. Okay,
It can
um,
move.
I
Susan,
wanted,
it can move.
hold on one second. I wanted to ask, Madam President, if I could read the two letters, for public record that I sent to the town council. Is that? Okay. This is in reference to, Grant McGregor and Anthony Renzi are coming before the town council in the executive session tonight. So, I'm a member of the planning board. I sent one letter, in, support of Grant McGregor, and so I'm going to read that first. To the Foster Town Council. As a member of the Foster Planning Board, I wish to convey my full support for Grant McGregor, Town Planner. In less than a year on the job, Grant has made an extraordinary contribution to this town. His dedication, thoroughness, and willingness to work long hours, often 7 days a week, no exaggeration, is the reason the town has kept up with the tight timeline dictated by the state to bring our ordinances into compliance, all while managing the day-to-day demands on a town planning department. Grant is highly qualified for the job of town planner. What he doesn't have is years of work experience that would help him navigate all the nuances and personalities of a small town government. Therefore, it is incumbent upon all of us who work with him to provide maximum support and guidance. The town of Foster is lucky to have him. This town council hired a consultancy firm who outlined a strategy for economic growth. If Foster is to achieve any of these goals, we cannot repeatedly lose highly qualified personnel. The town needs Grant, and he has already demonstrated that he deserves our support. That was the first letter, and I know that some other members of the planning board also sent letters in support of Grant. I wrote a second letter in support of Anthony Renzi. I didn't actually think he would be coming before the town council tonight, so I suspect, I can't speak for the other planning board members, but I suspect other planning board members would also have sent in letters had there been a little bit more time. This is the letter that I wrote 2 days ago. To the Foster Town Council. I'm writing in support of Anthony Renzi, who's been called before the town council, although I'm not clear as to why he's been summoned. Is it because he didn't recognize Gordon Rogers as DPW director at the January 24th planning board meeting? Anthony expressed a very reasonable concern. If the town council wanted to keep Mr. Rogers on in a holdover capacity, they should not have voted on whether to renew his contract. However, they did take a vote, it failed, and no subsequent vote was taken to determine who would act as interim director. Nor did the council provide any explanation as to why Mr. Rogers was still acting as director except for a vague, unsubstantiated reference to an evergreen contract. So again, Anthony raised a valid concern. Or is it because Anthony raised his voice at the meeting? If that is the case, then perhaps a reprimand is in order. People representing the town in an official capacity should behave in a civil and respectful manner. But it would be hypocritical to single Anthony out for this while ignoring the behavior of others. Anthony and I disagree on many things. However, we share a common goal, serving the best interests of this town. As planning board chair, Anthony has put in a great deal of work, and as a result, we've begun to make progress addressing some of Camoins' recommendations, consultants hired by this council. I am thankful for Anthony's efforts, and I appreciate the fact that while he may hold strong opinions, he listens to and is sometimes swayed by contrary arguments. This allows for differences of opinion to be discussed and considered, and why I feel our planning board works efficiently and effectively on behalf of this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Come right up. State your name and address, please.
Mike Carpenter. Okay. Wait, oh my goodness, right set stuff. Okay. Okay, I have to put on my flight vest and helmet or just a microphone, okay. Oldest planning board member that ever lived, and really congratulations to everybody for your dedication to our wonderful town. I like to say that because I know most of you and I know how hard you work, and I really appreciate it because I've been here for almost 50 years. It's a wonderful town. We have lots of potential. And those of us who have volunteered to serve over the years feel gratified that we have the support of everyone in the town when it comes to doing the right thing. So I thought it was just important for me to come here tonight and look all of you in the eye and say, I'm really proud of you. Sometimes I feel like a dad, sometimes I feel like a granddad, but I am proud of you for all the effort and all the good work that you do. And I wanted you to know, without equivocation, okay, this is the best equipped and most talented planning board that we have ever had. And that is thanks to you because you selected them. Okay. These are talented, successful, intelligent, and hardworking people. God knows you've seen all the ordinances. There's so much work to be done. And we couldn't afford to hire that talent. And the talent that we do hire, okay, needs to focus on the good work that's being done by the volunteers. Yeah, there are going to be differences of opinion and individual concerns that are righteous. But what's most important of all is that we get the job done. So let's all just take a deep breath, take a step back, and be thankful for the things that are working well. And let's support our planning board. Okay. They have been awarded for the work on the comp plan. And I have to say, most of all, getting somebody as young and talented as Grant at this point in time. I echo what Sue said. If we support Grant and we help him grow and and secure his commitment to Foster for the next few years, you can't measure the benefit. Like many of you, I've searched for talented people to achieve an objective. I have to tell you that there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that I could never have picked a better planning board than we have right now. Age, experience, knowledge, and commitment. You can check the registers. People show up, work hard every day. So please, as you negotiate all of the things that you're responsible for, hold on to your assets, evaluate your assets carefully, and cash them in. Utilize the talent that we have. I'm kind of looking at Kelly. This is an extremely talented lady. Okay, awarded and recognized in different levels. And I'm also a link to the land trust. She has been wonderful with the land trust. Sue Dillon has done so much to help us publish, access the internet, and spread the word that, hey, Foster's a really great place to be. And if I won the lottery, okay, and had millions to spend, I'd build a little steam railroad around Foster and give kids a free ride so they could see what the country was built on. Be proud of yourselves. Be proud of your town. And embrace your volunteer employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
I had something if nobody else.
You have a public comment?
Well, it is, and it's actually, I don't know where else I would say it. It's actually a question for Sue. Should I put this up?
For Susan Joyce?
For Sue. I've just seen am I on? a number of people that are so excited that we're on Zoom, but they're asking, they can tune in to the meetings as they are live. But is there going to be a place where they can view them after? Are they recorded
They are on YouTube and it's.
on YouTube?
They're on YouTube and
Okay.
it's under Forster Town Council, Forster Town Council. No, it's not. You are Forster Town Council. We have Forster Council RI. I think that's what they're under. So,
Foster Council, all right.
and I will look that up for you and get.
Under
I'll-
YouTube, people are
it's
just
on YouTube.
asking where they can
can
watch the
view 'em.
meetings later.
Mhm.
So
I
Foster,
will double check and I'll put it on the website.
and if you could send an email blast out to people, just so they
Absolutely.
know where they can go, and it's just questions that I've heard, that's all.
Thank you. Oh, you're on now.
Oh, I thought I shut myself off.
The consent agenda.
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? At this time, I would accept a motion to move the regional budget presentation to this point of time.
So moved.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? If we could, hi, how are you? If you could just come up and do you want, Susan, do you want her to state her name? And I know her name, but her address? Yeah. You can thank Kelly.
Yes, thank you very much for moving us to the top of the agenda. I'm Renee Palazzo. I'm the superintendent of Foster Gloucester. Amanda Raymond is our business manager for the region, and Shelley Pezza, chair of the school committee. Well, co-chair of region. Sorry. So we are here to give you a presentation on our regional budget. Our financial town meeting is scheduled for March 19th. We would appreciate your support. It's a 7 p.m. start time at the high school auditorium. Our budget came in at a 2.76 overall increase for the region. We just completed negotiations for our certified at a 2.5% raise and our non-certified at a 3%. We also lost ESSER funding, which is across the board in school districts. We had that right around COVID, so it was 3 years of ESSER, and those held on to positions. We still need the positions, but we no longer have the funding. So the region is seeing a 2.76% increase. Foster's share, you are on the positive side of the swing between Gloucester and Foster, so you're still on the positive side. Yours is a 0.73 increase for Foster. And so I'll hand it over to Amanda. I think if you, unless you have questions, we can give a little more or just answer some questions if you have them.
Let me state that Sue posted the agenda and I absolutely forgot to pass forward her budget. That's 100% my fault. You'll have it all in your emails by tonight. When is your regional meeting?
March 19th.
So Renee is going to be coming forward with the school budget. If you could review this with them, if they have questions between now and when you come, I believe she's going to she's going to try to come on March 7th,
Yeah.
which is
March-
before
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because she's a superintendent of both schools, we can ask questions regarding that. But I did review it, and as she said, the impact to Foster us is 0.73, but the overall impact is 2.7, or am I correct with that?
0.76. Yeah.
2.6. So generally, if you remember, what we do is we budget the increase, we put the other, we budget for the remaining to go into the set aside because we're on the positive side of the set aside for the second year. For the second year, right? But we always turn it around, so that money's set aside. So that's one, I'm gonna send you the budget right now. She emailed it to me and I didn't give it to Sue. That's my fault. You can take it back.
David, could you, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just, we are gonna be here for the Foster budget, so we are the same people representing just two different schools. So we'd be more than happy to answer questions then. We will bring this budget with us as well.
I think that's what Kelly was referring to.
Yeah, so that's,
Thank
and
you.
that's totally, so if you guys
You
have
just
additional.
state your name so everybody.
I'm sorry, Shelley Pezza. Yes, so if, so if anyone has any questions on that day, because it will take you time to review, there's a lot of pages. So if you come across anything that's concerned, you can either email us, call with any questions, or you can ask that day. We'd be happy to go over, but I will be bringing both budgets with
you.
us that day.
And Ms. Pezza is the chair or co-chair of the
Yes.
regional
Region. Thank you.
school committee.
Sorry, thank you.
That's okay. Go ahead. Amanda?
Oh, I think it was just asked that we point out,
State your name.
oh, I'm
first.
sorry.
Thank you.
No, you're on.
Is it on? Okay. I am Amanda Raymond. I'm the business manager for the region. And I think it was just asked that we mention that the debt will be paid off in 2029. So for planning purposes. And then I guess you guys haven't had a chance to come up with any questions yet, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
So what would be helpful though, is, so I'm the superintendent of Foster and Shelley is the chair of Foster. So we'll both be there on March 7th. Amanda is the business manager for the region only. So if you have some specific questions, maybe Kelly, you could send them to us and then I can have Amanda go through it. Or if we know an exact time, then she can come for that part of it. So we do both budgets, but she wouldn't have to stay for the Foster side of it. She'd be for the Foster Gloucester.
So what were your major increases, just so they know when they're looking at the budget specifically?
The cause of our major increases, that was due to salary and benefits.
yes.
Yeah, so we have two
Yeah.
contracts that were negotiated
Mhm.
with the 2.5 and a 3% increase. And we lost ESSER, which also paid for positions. So the largest increases are salary and benefits.
And the capital decreased because,
Oh, sorry.
The capital decreased, I think by what, 25,000?
something like that. Yeah.
Just, we were trying to, I guess, soften the blow, trying to adjust the numbers to where it wasn't such an increase.
Okay. So again, the operations is 2.7. If we're gonna have to make a decision if you wanted to do that and then set aside the difference. Or just fund the 0.7 increase, which is Foster, which I don't recommend going forward. It just creates a structural problem.
Mhm.
Long term, you can look at the budget in more detail. I'm sending it to you literally right now, so we'll talk about it in a week or so further.
I have a hard copy if you want me to leave one with you.
They actually already have, that's the thing. I already put that in their packet for the
Okay.
budget, and that's what mentally I was thinking I was done. I forgot all about this. So sorry. I'm loading it right now to you.
I'm sorry, you had said in 2029, something was ending?
The Ryback bond will be paid off in 2029. That's the bulk of the debt.
Thank you.
I had asked them to give us that number because I know that for long-term projecting, we always like to see when their debt is because we have debt that we're issuing, so I thought it was important to know when that debt would fall off.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much, and we'll probably have questions next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Heidi, to answer your question,
Yes.
if you go onto youtube.com/@Foster Rhode Island, you will be able to sign up for that and it will automatically come in. It's under Town of Foster RI.
Yes, for clarity.
Yep.
YouTube.com.
youtube.com/@Foster RI.
Foster, all right.
And then it's under Town of Foster RI.
Is that something you can send out in an email?
I'm going to send that out in an email blast. I'll put it on news and notices and
Yeah, just.
I'll do that on Monday.
Because they can tune in, but they were just wondering if they aren't available to tune in while the meeting's going on, if they can watch it later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to our public hearings, we have first hearing for zoning. To remind everyone, the first hearing, the council will not be voting. We just take any questions or concerns that you might have. And I'm going to start with Heidi reading the ad.
On February 22nd, 2024, the Foster Town Council will conduct a public hearing at 6 p.m. at 6 South Killenly Road, the Benjamin Eddy Building. On the agenda will be discussion of 15 manufactured homes and trailer ordinances, 1 planning ordinance, 2 business ordinances, 3 nuisance ordinances, and 1 zoning ordinance recommended by the planning board at its January 17th and February 7th, 2024 meetings. The recommendations include additions to the business ordinance section 12-1, penalty for violation of chapter, authority, and section 12-48, businesses, dumpsters. The recommendations include amendments to and removals from the manufactured homes and trailers ordinance section 16-1 through 16-30, reserved. Section 16-61, temporary permits following damage. Section 16-81, unlicensed trailers prohibited. Section 16-82, procedure for applying for initial trailer license. Section 16-83, standards to govern issuance of initial trailer license. Section 16-84, hearing on issuance of initial trailer license, issuance or denial of license. Section 16-85, previously located trailers. Section 16-121 through, definitions. Section 16-122, general requirements for operation of a mobile home or trailer park. Section 16-123, sanitary requirements for operation of mobile home or trailer parks. Section 16-124, registration of mobile homes or trailers. 16-125, existing land and area requirements. Section 16-126, penalties for violation. Section 16-151, required, and section 16-152, application. The recommendations include additions to the nuisance ordinances, section 18-1, dumpsters, section 18-2, recycle receptacles, and section 18-32, penalty for violation of article authority. The recommendations include amendments to the planning ordinance, section 24-35, organization. The recommendations include amendments to zoning ordinance, section 38-3, penalty for violation of chapter. Copies of the proposed amendments, additions, and removals can be found online at https://www.townoffoster.com/planning department. Copies can also be obtained from the Foster Planning Office during regular business hours. The proposed amendments, additions, and removals may be altered or amended prior to the close of the public hearing without further advertising as a result of further study or because of the views expressed at the public hearing. Any alteration or amendment must be presented for comment in the course of the hearing. Individuals requiring interpreter service must notify the town clerk's office at 401-392-9200 at least 72 hours in advance of the hearing date by order of the town council, Susan M. Dillon, town clerk.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That being said, I am going to open the public hearing for the first hearing zoning. And Grant, you're on.
Okay, so the first ordinance on the agenda is section 12-1, penalty for violation of chapter authority. This is a recommendation to add a penalty for violation of the businesses chapter. We currently don't have one. So there is currently no penalty for that chapter. It's proposed to have the fine for penalty of the chapter be $100, and the building official would be enforcement for violation, would be responsible for enforcement of the chapter. And there are there's an existing section of the ordinances that covers penalties for violations when they're not exactly spelled out, but that section is 1-7, and it's much more harsh, I guess, than somebody just running a business without a permit, when you could kind of just work with them to come into compliance and potentially not even fine them.
Anyone have any questions? I know I'm not supposed to speak now, but what is chapter?
The chapter is chapter 12.
Oh, all right. I thought it referred to something. Thank you.
So the next ordinance is section 1248, businesses dumpsters. So if you look into chapter 28, there's already a requirement for businesses to have their trash pickup done by a private hauler. It says that the town is not responsible for collecting solid waste that's generated by businesses. So the proposal is for all businesses or firms engaged in commerce to have a dumpster or a similar storage container if the business doesn't produce enough waste to basically require a dumpster. It specifies that the town does not collect any trash other than potentially recycling at a business, and the potential for businesses to have their recycling picked up by the town would have to come from some kind of agreement between that business and the DPW director. And so businesses would need to receive a dumpster permit from the DPW director, who would inspect the dumpster and the location of the dumpster for compliance as is set forth in section 18-1, which will be addressed later in the public hearing. And in order for a business license to be renewed, a dumpster would need to be proven to be on the premises by the DPW director or the town clerk. Once the application was filed to the town clerk, or the DPW director could just report to the council that he inspected it and there's one there.
No.
Okay, so the next, anything under chapter 16 was proposed based on consistency. And what I mean by that is we have a section that covers trailer parks in Foster's ordinance, but Foster's ordinance says that you cannot bring a trailer into Foster if it didn't exist there prior to 1971. So because we don't have a trailer park, it wouldn't be able to be created by our ordinance. But there are still some questions that are remaining after last night's planning board meeting relating to the building code. So basically, we'll look to revisit anything under chapter 16 at a future meeting.
Is that all 16? All the way down?
Yes, everything under chapter 16.
Tonight, or are we reviewing them tonight?
We're recommending that we would just table them for a future meeting.
Reviewing them. You need to put your microphone on.
I'm sorry, in reviewing them, will you be reviewing the language that I read in there about forming trailer parks and things like that? Is that part of what the concern was?
So basically, manufactured homes are covered under the state building code, and there's questions about liability if you were to not allow people to have individual manufactured homes, but trailer parks are a density issue. And there isn't one existing now, so there couldn't be one the way our ordinances are written currently. But units that are on smaller lots are not something that lots that are that small is not something that the planning board really wants to entertain.
Oh, okay, so we're not changing it to be able to have trailer parks.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Ryder, you need to go up front. Name, address, you know the routine.
Lynn Ryan, Pleasant Road. I know when I went through these, I think an initial confusion, and I also commenting about it, was that it's the language that whatever section can be removed, a trailer park. It sounded like a fact that a trailer park, I think the word because might inserted in those very things, that's 80% of what's here.
They realize that and are going back at it now, so I think we all kind of jumped at that.
Yes.
So.
Can I ask Grant a question? I had the same concerns that Lynn had when I was reading through them, because I was going, we don't allow trailer parks, and then the removal of it. So I had the same concerns. But anyway, for right now, just for meeting purposes and going through this, we're going to skip through we're going right through section 152. We're going to leave that all alone. You guys are going to revisit it, and we're going to skip down to section 15.
Yes.
One.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
We're on 18-1 dumpsters, which is number 18 under the first public hearing zoning. If
Yep.
anyone's following along on the agenda.
Yep, so the same concept. In section 1248. It's the case that they're required their trash to be picked up by a private hauler. So in order to reinforce that, we're proposing that every business have a dumpster, or if they don't produce enough trash to require a dumpster, then they will be able to have a similar storage container that's just smaller. So there are some setback requirements that come from communities in Rhode Island's ordinances. I think a lot of them come from Johnston. So one of the more specific requirements about dumpsters for businesses required in any zoning district that abuts those cases abutting residences, a dumpster would need to be placed a minimum 10 feet from the rear and side property lines. And if the dumpster is a commercial driving, 5 feet from the rear and side property lines. And the surrounding area would be landscaped. So under minimum standards, dumpster should be painted so as to not leave. The names and telephone numbers of the dumpster owner would need to be clearly painted on two sides of the dumpster. Except when outside of that, it needs to be closed. All dumpsters need to be screened from public view on at least 3 sides by a solid wall, opaque fence, or compact planting screen of at least 5 feet in height. If such area is not within an enclosed building or structure. Screening would need to be constructed in a manner to allow inspection and would be the responsibility of the property owner. No dumpster within 200 feet of a residential property in any zoning district would be able to be serviced between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. The use of dumpsters, any dumpster used in the town would need to be maintained and serviced with the frequency sufficient to prevent spillage or overflow, to prevent the buildup of offensive odors, and to prevent a public hazard. The responsibility for maintenance and servicing of dumpsters would again rest with the owner of the business. The maintenance of dumpsters would include cleanup and removal of all litter thrown on or left around the dumpster. Basically, if you shot a basketball at the dumpster and miss, you have to clean it up and prevent it from flying all over the place. Any dumpster regularly used to contain decompostable matter or other odor generators being cleaned with disinfectant on a monthly basis. You need drain holes in the dumpster to prevent leakage of waste fluids and entry by rodents. And in no event would the dumpster or similar type of trash receptacle contain hazardous waste or material that's harmful to the surrounding residents. Violations and penalties. This comes from Johnston's ordinance. Any person who shall violate any provision of this section would be, upon enforcement, subject to a fine of not more than $100 per day for the first offense, not more than $250 per day for the second offense, and not more than $500 per day for any subsequent offenses. And the enforcement would lie with the Director of Public Works. And that's it.
Any questions on that? This is Ryder. That's okay.
It seems like 10 feet is way too close. Because, you know, a dumpster is a dumpster. It's not very attractive. I don't care what color you paint it. And to have it within 10 feet of somebody's, of your lot line, you don't know how close another, you know, a house has to be or would be. I would think just something as the greater, you know, the greatest reasonable distance And I didn't hear, did it say anything about a closed dumpster?
Yes.
It did. Okay,
Several times.
right. But even a closed
Only
dumpster
open
is
if
going to
you're putting
smell.
something in.
I know, but it's still going to smell. But I think 10 feet is way too close.
Thank you.
Does seem a bit close. We can move it back.
Go right ahead.
I just wanted to clarify
Turn on
something.
your microphone, please.
I just wanted to clarify something Grant said, because you hear it so many times, I'm kind of used to it. But in case you missed it, if a business owner were to claim they didn't have enough refuse to get a larger conventional dumpster, it's incumbent upon the business owner to secure an item that is safe and I guess approved for the application. It's not upon the town to do it. We're not going to go in and make special deals to collect certain people's trash. So I just wanted to clarify that if you don't have enough refuse for a large dumpster, you will have to find another solution, the business owner.
So maybe I'm gonna ask a question now. You talk about refuse versus recycling.
Mhm.
Because I know that there is a business on Route 6 and I see them on Wednesday mornings and they have a whole line of recycling boxes, et cetera, out there. That's acceptable?
So businesses aren't supposed to put out recycling unless they've for the pickup, unless they've come into some agreement with the DPW director. That's in chapter 28, which covers recyclables to a pretty lengthy extent. But they can put out recyclables for a private hauler to take. I'm not sure who's picking up the recyclables at that business.
I'll have to check that out.
Doesn't that benefit the town though? If I mean, I went by one today on Cucumber Hill Road. I'm not gonna say which one it was. And I've never noticed before, but there were like 7 recycling bins. Today was our recycle day on Cucumber Hill Road, but this was a business and they weren't little bins, they were large bins. Doesn't that benefit us for the businesses to put these recyclables out?
Can I take a shot at that?
Yeah.
So the problem we have with that, and I think Grant and I spoke about that a little bit, and Grant's and his team, the planning board is going to do some more work on it. There's been some concern about people dumping recyclables mixed with trash. So if that in fact is happening, which we haven't verified or disproved it yet, then the town is suffering greatly with the penalties. So it's not good for the town I don't think it's good for the town to enter into agreement to pick up even recyclables, but I'll pass judgment. I won't pass any judgment on the final decision. My belief is a business should be required to handle their own trash and recyclables, and whatever it costs, it's incumbent again upon them. But Grant and the planning board are doing a lot of work and very thorough. And they don't agree with my concept or my opinion. And what we're going to find is hopefully the town will benefit from the recycling. We're not positive. The jury's still out on that because we've gotten a lot of complaints about mixed trash.
Mixed trash, I agree with, but. Sorry. This is a whole new learning curve for me. Mixed trash I get. Because, we get penalized for that, but I'm seeing cardboard boxes that are in, and I'm not knowledgeable enough, but I would agree with Heidi in that I would think that that's helping us, but I don't know.
And I don't know how we would distinguish, David, to your point, because any household can mix.
Yeah, we get that already.
Right, and I know we do have that where a load can be rejected because of a plastic bag.
But a business might have more.
Absolutely.
than
A
households.
business is really taxing the process. A business like a restaurant or a bar is not going to put the same amount of recyclables out as my house. The problem is we've gotten complaints and there are residents have followed trucking companies watching them mix trash with recyclables, which is just padding the bill in my view. And we can't control that. There's no way to legislate honesty and integrity. So We have to get to the bottom of if we're being treated fairly as a town in order to benefit from that recycling program completely, because we are going to get a lot more recyclable from businesses than we do from private residents. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and this might be a dumb question. I'm not completely familiar with trash pickup and the ins and outs of it. The town does get charged based on tonnage, correct? So if the town was picking up business garbage, then the bill would be a
Right.
bit more expensive
No
for the
rate of
town.
concern.
And I
Right.
think that's your refuge.
Yeah,
Right, you're
and
talking
and
about
so.
what the recycling
Benefits.
benefit.
Yeah, I mean, it very well may, and that's something that we could look to promote if we find that it does benefit us. Yeah.
That, and I don't know that it does. I'm assuming it does, and you know about assuming.
And in theory, it should. In theory, recyclables are good. We get a credit.
Right,
But
right.
if we're cheating, I'm not accusing anyone. If I was cheating at my pickup, padding the bill so I could get more of a penalty payment for an overage in tonnage because I'm mixing stuff before it gets to the scale, we need to get to the bottom of that. There's enough clamor out in public of people saying they had a complaint with it.
Mr. You have to come up to the front, stand there, state your name and address. Ask Mrs. Ryder. She's very good at it.
Okay, Andrew, Chairman.
Central.
Because I read a letter somewhere, because I understand what's going on. Someone posted it on a Facebook page where most of the town stuff is displayed. We pay, we're allowed at the landfill 3,000 tons of garbage. No, it's not that. We pay $70 a ton for 2,000 that we're allowed. Yeah.
So it's $70. Thank you.
Anything over that we over the 2010, $120. We brought supposedly, this is just what I read from 1,700 pounds over to 2,000. So if my math is correct, that's almost the same amount that we're allowed to do. So there's two things that need to be done. One, business dumpsters is number one, forget the recyclable stuff. Okay, that businesses do. Guy gets a dumpster, he's throwing everything in the dumpster. He's not gonna separate his bottles for with his garbage. Second, someone should go and cut a new deal with the landfill and say, hey, 2,000 tons is not enough for what we're bringing in the town. Maybe they give us 2,500. Okay, that's $70 a ton. Third, someone should tell Rambone, don't pick up garbage from businesses. Okay, because he drives down, picks up garbage no matter where it is. Okay, so that eliminates that. Now, if you eliminate it, and then you have to obviously do something, people that want to put big solids, couches and everything that we see that we do. A homeowner can pay, I'm not involved in garbage, I'm just involved in numbers. The homeowner can probably pay to have that removed, or the homeowner can bring it with them. You could have a DPW garage on the big stuff. Maybe not dumpster. Everyone can take that on the landfill. The fourth thing you were mentioning about cardboard that you see there. Well, the only time that cardboard is put out in that business is this business.
Wasn't good, Mr. Ramsey. I wasn't mentioning that.
This stuff needs to be brought forward because it's in the position that we're. And the cardboard he's showing up, that's only going into garbage. It's not a recyclable because town doesn't claim cardboard as recyclable because now everything you have in your house, cardboard box, like forget it, you won't be throwing anything away. He's just throwing that in the garbage. For Rainbow.
Okay,
So that's where, I think if we got a high number. Eliminate of it. And. He's saying businesses that don't have a lot of records, they still have to pay to get it removed. What that means is, you know, when we say the word dumpster, it's garbage removal. Someone with a small business can have the big garbage can with the flip lid.
Yeah.
That a private company comes and picks it up, and they pay them anywhere from
Yeah.
So then let me ask. Listen,
My other business at Dell's, we got the big ones there in the summer.
for the dumpster, the sanitizing, that the company that picks up your dumpster. You go out there and sanitize.
Businesses are in a place, most of them it's the restaurants. Thank God, that's. It's not the tomato smell, it's not. Vomits and all that other stuff, okay? It's really. Business to maintain the cleanliness.
I didn't know whether it was part of your contract
No,
with.
I'm sure, I'm not, I don't think any garbage removal, they go into the trucks. You just dump it, adios, and whatever falls out of the dumpster, you're on your own when you go put.
I don't have
pick up the
dumpsters.
You know, yeah, no. That is what, and you were saying about 10 feet away from something, that would only really come into effect if it just has a home. If it's big, there's businesses lined up with each other, it's really not a big deal. Usually next to each other because the truck that comes in to empty them needs it to be easy together.
Anthony, I wanted to add, you may not be aware, but there was a fee structure discussed. We did discuss a fee structure for couches, large items, and things like that. But to your point, the contractor that picks up trash, it doesn't do him any good to be a good citizen of Foster. He wants to pick up everything. If I ask him, will you take this junk out? He's gonna say yes, because he gets billed, he's guaranteed his money. But as Grant and I were speaking about 2 days ago, I think the state law classifies appliances as wretched, dry, refrigerator stove. Did you get to the bottom of if we're required to pick that up as a convenience to the homeowner? Or would that be something that we would drop off, to Mr. Renzi's point, at the DPW facility?
I think ideally you would drop it off at the DPW facility. There's a section in chapter 28 that discusses white goods and.
White goods,
the
that's right.
entrance in there. I don't know exactly. what it says.
If you leave the couches for Rambone to pick up,
He's gonna take them.
Bill's
when
going,
he goes, that's right, when he goes to the landfill and he drives the truck over to landfill, we're paying on the tonnage.
that's right.
Right.
So all of a sudden, the tonnage is heavy that day, okay? Now, if the homeowner, instead of driving it out to the end of their driveway, drives it to the DPW garage, throws it in a dumpster, and once a month, whenever it gets filled, whatever the case may be, but he's paying us the extra at the town. He has to get a ticket or whatever you guys, whatever way.
Well, it's a
DPW
future
director-
agenda item. We have
Whichever
it,
way
yep.
you guys figure it out, and that's the way it is. If you actually go to the transfer station in Gloucester, there's bins of everything you want to throw away. You know, and I guess it's easier when somebody drives to the transfer station with all that stuff in their car.
The resident.
I pay for trash removal.
Yeah, well, they take the trash, but I mean.
Bring your own.
Yeah, you.
pay, yeah.
Right,
Right.
right.
You get a permit and you have to bring your own trash.
Right.
This-
Nobody
When I
picks it
lived
up.
in Gloucester, it was trash collection.
I had
Yeah.
an old couple that. Speaking about this. My backyard, pick up the garbage for $20 a month, and they went to the landfill. Went behind my store. When I bought my plaza, we did, I bought there 55-gallon drums, and these to drive by, put the garbage in and go to the landfill. Well, that's not what I wanted. I wanted dumpsters. So we put dumpsters in at the business. They got pissed at me and they wouldn't go pick up my garbage at my house anymore. So I had to start driving to Gloucester. So there are people out there that will pick it up. They make a fee, obviously. That's why they're in business. So there is no issue on somebody not being able to get rid of their garbage no matter how much they have.
The bottom line is,
Thank you.
Anthony, that it's not the responsibility of the town.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Thank you. Grant. Are we on 18-32?
Yeah, so 18-2, there's not really a reason to move forward with that recommendation because recyclables are covered under chapter 28 and article 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So then 1832, penalty for violation of chapter. This is a recommendation for the penalty for the violation of anything under the nuisances ordinance to match the penalty for violation that's found in subsection 4 of 18-1, which would be 100 days for the first offense, not exceeding $250 per day for the second offense, and then not exceeding $500 per day for any subsequent offenses.
Thank you.
Do you understand that one? I'm sorry if I'm reading it wrong. This is a noise article?
No, so currently it's under the article noise. We would just need to retitle the article because there's only currently a penalty for noise issues because that's basically all that's covered under nuisances.
Is that like the noise ordinance where before it was about shooting guns and?
It's
running-
the noise ordinance is about any kind of noise, period. And the current penalty for that violation of that chapter, which covers basically entirely noise, is $100. So because we're proposing adding dumpsters into the nuisances chapter, chapter 28, we would then need to keep the penalties for violation consistent with anything in the chapter. And the noise ordinance is so hard to enforce anyway. I don't think anybody gets penalized for it.
Curious about that.
That's true. We
Your
can't.
microphone. Your
Yeah.
microphone.
Yeah, that's what confused me about that, because I know there was a lot of discussion about a noise ordinance before. That's why I was surprised this one like
No.
popped up in here.
And adding the penalty to the heading of nuisance, it just happens that noise is in the heading of nuisance.
Correct.
But as Grant said, we've already been through this. We can't enforce because we would have to drive around with noise meters. It's very subjective. It's hard to enforce.
Exactly. So why do we have it?
Noise is under nuisances.
Yeah, please.
So they're amending the title of this, so instead of it being penalty for violation of article, because we went through the article, it was penalty of violation of the chapter, which is nuisances. The nuisances is the chapter, so instead of it just applying to one subsection of nuisances, it will apply to the whole chapter. Nuisances.
Right. So it covers
So it's
people,
renaming it.
it covers people who are being basically not compliant with their
Okay,
trash.
I'm just gonna have to go back and read that because that, I don't know, I don't
They
get it.
retitle it too, so that's
Okay.
what makes it broader.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Hearing none. Moving on, Grant.
Section 2435 organization. This is under the planning chapter. Basically, we have a secretary on the planning board who could be better utilized by not having to take the minutes during every meeting and being able to participate more fully during the meeting. So the proposal here is for the planning board to have a recording clerk present who would not be a member of the board. It would be put into the planning budget to pay this recording clerk to take the minutes so that our secretary could participate in the meetings to a greater extent than she currently does. And it's also written in this section of the ordinances that the planning board holds one meeting per month, but every year when the schedule of meetings comes out for each board, it says that the planning board holds 2 meetings per month. So a good way to allow holding either 1 or 2 meetings per month would say, rather than you have to hold 1 per month, you're able to hold at least 1 regular meeting per month. That way you could hold 1 or 2.
Okay. I get that. So you're looking for, when you have a hearing, you have a registered.
Like a stenographer.
No, it's not
That's
it's
how-
not a stenographer.
Right, thank you.
No, we're actually proposing that, I mean, I don't think there's a need for the stenographer for the zoning board or the planning board because anything that goes to Superior Court can be brought there with a recording device, so I don't see the need in having a stenographer at meetings. Yes, and so
But
what this
the law says
proposal,
We're not going to be the ones to say, no.
no, well, the law says that we can use a recording device. We don't, we can use a stenographer or a recording device, but that is not the intent of this ordinance.
This is just a recording clerk.
Yeah, so it would be somebody who sits in any planning board meeting and takes the minutes.
So take.
Takes an audio recording and then transcribes it into minutes?
No, she sits there during the planning board meeting and takes the minutes from what everyone is saying. She might have a recorder with her, or she could take the minutes during the meeting, he or she.
So you're looking to hire someone for that position.
Correct.
And they would be responsible for sitting at the meeting, taking these minutes, however, either by writing or recording, and then transcribing them into a written form for minutes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Can we just see if the audience has anything? Audience, no, okay, now Cheryl, go ahead.
if it can be recorded and it's submissible in court, if you need it, then why can't a recording be done? Because we really can't hire anybody right now. So why can't a recording be done and through Sue given to somebody that likes to do minutes? There is not her herself. There is somebody, I know you have, but and even to the town clerk to be done in her office.
I would say because we currently are doing that because our secretary's on vacation, so we're recording the planning board meetings and then bringing them to Carol Shally to take the minutes.
That's what I meant.
But that basically, she could use her working hours more effectively if somebody took the minutes during the planning board meeting. They didn't have, the clerks in town hall didn't have to take 2 hours, 3 hours to try and figure out who said what during the meeting because people don't say their names. Basically, it saves staff time.
That is
Yeah,
a good point, Grant.
Cheryl brings up a good point, but the fact of the matter is, it is more effective to have somebody real time at the table doing the recordings. And it is going to tie up somebody you're already paying. So it's kind of like, pay me now or pay me later.
No, they're already being paid to be in the office a
Right.
certain amount of time. They're not being paid to attend these meetings.
No, that's true.
And it could be like here, we insist on people stating their name and address
But
when they're
we
talking.
don't.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
We don't.
No,
Supposed to.
no.
When we talk with.
I
But-
don't even think you're supposed to.
Yeah,
Yeah, but Sue is here,
that would be.
No, we already.
but Sue is here and she attends our
Right.
meetings.
Right.
Somebody
And
has
I
to.
think that's what,
I know
Grant
that's
is
what
saying.
they want, but
but I think that's what Grant is saying, which is a good point. You might recognize, Susan's, but is it Susan or is it Hillary? Mike, we all know, Anthony,
Yeah.
but I mean, so then it comes, I don't know.
I mean, I
Something to
understand
say.
the need for a grant. I do. I just know where money,
You have it here that it's also a state. I'm looking at the little logos.
Mhm.
So the state saying we have to have that?
No, the state's not saying we have to have anything. The state's saying that the planning board can put forward any procedure that would help the board in the conducts of its duties. So that's found in 4522(5)(a). And basically it says any procedure that would be effective for the planning board to operate more efficiently can be done. And this is certainly something that would help the board operate more effectively because our secretary would serve the role that she is fully capable of instead of having to spend half the time taking minutes and half the time participating.
So I'm thinking our second hearing, there'll be more discussion about this, but I
I think it's a pretty simple
understand what you're
concept.
saying, Grant, and I'm just not sure about funding purposes, but I get what you're saying. And I understand and certainly Mrs. Dillon is in charge of the clerks as to what their work is like. But if to add something onto them, is that a burden? I don't know.
They don't want to do it. That's the whole thing. They don't want to work.
No, I know, but I'm saying if the recording is then given to them to do the minutes, like Grant says, it might take, let's say, an hour. All right, do they have enough time in their
Yes.
day
We've been
to
doing it
do
though
an
for you,
hour's worth?
right? Carol's been doing it for you. I
Um,
think right now she's just asking you to please like have someone just say who's ever speaking, like if it's Hillary.
That's a whole
right?
learning curve. though.
I,
Do-
I, but
does-
they're all
Doing that
talking.
here.
No, you,
Does Carol take the minutes for the planning board? Because Hillary writes very thorough minutes, and I don't think Carol usually has to edit
she
them that
types,
much.
she just types them up and she doesn't listen to your meeting.
I don't know how Hillary records it, but every time she sends in minutes, they're like next to perfect.
Okay.
We hardly ever have to go and amend them.
Kind of like a Helen Dixon. Mrs. Ryder.
Just quick, Glen Ryder, Burgess Road, having attended some of the. A lot of times. It's very technical. And I, you know, this secretary is taking it, have to ask clarification. If all you did was record it, you wouldn't get that.
I lose something.
Okay, is it in his budget?
But I also understand
Okay, if it's in his
Grant
budget.
and the
it's in
planning
his
board.
budget.
If you have to sit there and take minutes.
Yeah.
It's hard to participate in or even hearing what's going on in the, I can think about in my previous life. I would have to take minutes, but there would be somebody else with me that if the meeting got hot, I could say, you're taking the minutes, and I could just start to redirect and control things.
Yeah, and it seems like our secretary still could ask the clarification on a technical question. She just wouldn't have to then stop and write that down and then say, okay, now we resume. Somebody else could be there to write it.
The next day, because they can't figure it out on the tape.
Yeah.
It's already in
I-
Grant's budget.
No,
No, it's in the budget that he's going to be presenting.
presenting, so.
It's not in the budget
He,
now.
he mentioned that,
Mhm.
but I think it's something new, and you know how we are with new. So we'll have to, there'll be more discussions, Grant.
Okay.
Mrs. Rock. Can you come up and say your name and address?
Oh, 1 hour or 2 hours in planning board meeting, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so how often do they meet? Twice a month? Okay, and how much does it cost per hour? $25? Right, the stipend? It's just that we go ahead and.
But investing all this time, I will need to have that recorded so that everybody who's in this town knows what's going on. So this is my suggestion. Then on every person.
I volunteer, she can volunteer, you can volunteer, you can volunteer. So I take part in the job. I have carbon. That's
$50.
How?
Wow. How is that?
We're gonna ask you to volunteer.
Yes.
No, I cannot write anymore because I have no more sensation in my fingers.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Mrs. Rao. Okay.
I wanted Anna to be the recording clerk too. No, I want you to be the one who does.
You made a joke.
Go ahead, Grant.
So section 38.3 is the only zoning ordinance on the agenda for this hearing. Penalty for violation of chapter. So currently the fines don't exceed $100 for each offense, and each offense per day is deemed to be a separate offense. But because we have so many longstanding zoning violations that go unresolved, Rhode Island General Law 45-2460 says that the fines should relate to the seriousness of the offense. So the proposal here is if 14 days expire from when the zoning enforcement officer issues a fine and a penalty, if the zoning violation is not resolved or people aren't working to resolve their zoning violations for 2 weeks after they get the notice, the penalty would increase to $500 per day.
Whoa. Okay. Thank you, Grant. Any questions on that one?
So is it? The way I read it, it's from $100 per day to automatically $500 per day, because I'm reading 100 to 500.
Here,
in there.
Yeah.
So it goes from 100 after 2
After
weeks.
14 days.
Yeah, if 2 weeks go by and.
And you're not
you don't do
making any-
anything about your zoning violation, then.
It goes to $500 per day.
If you're not showing any.
That's subjective, isn't it?
Well, that's why the zone trust to make that kind of judgment.
And that's in accordance with whatever general law.
Yeah, the building. Is the zoning enforcement officer and most smaller towns. Yeah,
That's what, and that's what we've been voting on in the past, right?
Wow.
I mean, some of the other ordinances we changed that
Yeah. Just to clarify.
we've been referring to the building and zoning as the enforcement officer.
yes.
So,
Okay.
all right, thank you. Any other questions regarding these ordinances? Okay, so I'm going to do my 3-3. Anyone that would like to speak in favor of these ordinances? Anyone that would like to speak in favor of these ordinances? Anyone that would like to speak in favor of these ordinances? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition to any of these ordinances? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition to these ordinances? Last time, anyone that would like to speak in opposition to these ordinances? We're going to hear these in March, I think it's March 7th. Is that the next council meeting? I can't
I
remember.
think it's March 14th.
Oh, is it that late?
Yeah, we have something to do with the
Don't get
calendar.
too
Gives us
excited.
3 weeks, I think. Kelly was
Don't
doing a
get
dance
too
about it at
excited.
one point.
All right, so the second hearing, and that's when the council may or may not vote. So we're moving on to the second hearing. And I did not print out the ad.
I'm looking right now to see if I've got it here. I've got the ad. Legal ad. Do you? I'm
For the
I'm
second?
looking for it. Here, I don't see- oh, second hearing, let me see. It might be here.
Okay, then Cheryl, you want to read it, please?
I see it.
It
Oh,
would
yeah.
be ordinance, it would start with 8-216 classes.
I've got two, yes, let me see.
Section 8-216.
The actual ad starts with 3863, but 8216 is in the body of it. Sorry, I know. It starts with. So the first. Lower. So it is, the ad for the first hearing is February 8th on these. February 22nd.
Can I see?
So do we have to go back to, what was it, February 8th, we said?
So it is a.
Sorry.
It is in Sugar Sync. It is listed as legal ad to 824 under second hearing.
I don't, those, neither of those are it. Thank you.
Sorry. Madam President, do you mean if I close the blinds?
Nope, go right ahead.
I'm trying to get into my Sugar Sync for that date.
Does somebody want to read it? I will.
Cheryl had.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody. Oh. and next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It actually is nice when you close the blinds. I never realized that.
All right. Kelly's
No one's
gonna give
watching
it
us
to
from
me.
Outside.
Thank you, Figure.
That's all right. Okay, so Ms. Horsey, if you'll read that for us?
Sure, sorry. On February 8th, 2024, the Forster Town Council will conduct a public hearing at 6 p.m. at 6 South Killing Road, Benjamin Eddy Building. On the agenda will be discussion of 9 zoning ordinances. 1, soil erosion and sediment control ordinance. 3, animal ordinances, and 17 business ordinances
recommended by the planning board at its November 15th, 2023, December 7th, 2023, and January 3rd, 2024 meetings. The recommendations include amendments to the Foster zoning ordinance, section 38-63, powers and duties, section 38-64, voting, section 38-65, application procedures, section 38-67, decisions and records, section 38-232, existence by variance or special use permit, section 38-359, land development projects, section 38-387, pre-submission conference, section 38-388, contents of site plan, and section 38-467, development not requiring planning board or zoning board approval. The recommendations include amendments to the soil erosion and sediment control ordinance, section 26-121, site plan fees, review fees. The recommendations include amendments to the animal ordinance, section 8-216 classes, section 8-221 fees, and section 8-222 renewal. The recommendations include amendments to the business ordinance, section 12-31 renewal or transfer, section 12-34 license for sale of alcohol, section 12-35 license for entertainment, section 12-36 license for campground, section 12-37 license for hotel/motel, section 12-38 license for pawn shop, section 12-39 license for sale of secondhand articles, section 12-40 license for private detective, section 12-41 license for theater, section 12-42 license for auto repair, section 12-43 license for preparing food, victualling, section 12-44 license for automobile junkyard, section 12-45 license for flea market, section 12-46 license for retail holiday sales, section 12-47 and license for gravel banks, natural material processing, stone crushing, and sorting, mining, quarrying. Section 12-96 application fee, renewal fee, and section 12-162 license issuance fees, limitations. I gotta go down, Kelly. help
It's not touch screen.
Oh, okay.
Use your little,
Sorry, I felt. Okay, whoa, wait a minute.
What if you lose just your arrow key?
Okay, I'm sorry. Copies of the proposed amendments, additions, and removals can be found online at www.townofforster.com/planning-department. Copies can also be obtained from the Forster Planning Office during regular business hours. The proposed amendments, additions, and removals may be altered or amended prior to the close of the public hearing without further advertising. As a result of further study or because of the views expressed at the public hearing, any alteration or amendment must be presented for comment in the course of the hearing. Individuals requiring interpreter service must notify the town clerk's office 401-392-9200 at least 72 hours in advance of the hearing date by order of the town clerk, by order of the town council, excuse me.
Thank you. Just a reminder, this is the second hearing, so the council may or may not vote on all or some. Go ahead, Grant.
Okay, so the first ordinance, section 8-216 classes. This is the ordinance that divides kennels into two different classes. Class A kennels are breeding kennels. Class B kennels are boarding kennels. So all that's being proposed in Class A is the removal of some zoning districts that no longer exist and some language that matches the Rhode Island General Law section that covers breeding kennels, which is 41310. Class B kennel licenses. This is strictly meeting Rhode Island General Law 419-2, which defines breeding kennels. And a breeding kennel does not apply to the following: sheltering, feeding, and watering in return for a fee in a residential setting of no more than 4 animals not owned by the proprietor, and any entity that sells a dog. So basically what this is saying is, if you have 4 animals or 4 dogs or fewer that are not owned by you, you would not need to have a kennel license. But if you had 5 dogs being kept that weren't yours, then that constitutes a kennel. And obviously this is just for boarding and returning to the owner. So if you sell dogs, then you wouldn't fall under this category.
Thank you. Any questions regarding this? Hearing none, go ahead, Grant.
One, fees. So under those same sections I referenced. It's for boarding kennels. There's different. And there are different bodies that are responsible for issuing the licenses. So Class A breeding kennels come with a $25 license fee under state law, and Class B kennel licenses for boarding come with a $50 license fee. Class A kennels are actually issued by the town clerk, and Class B kennels are issued by the town council. And I believe in Foster, we only have Class B kennels currently, but the option is there for a Class A kennel.
Thank you. Of course you can, but you need to go up, state your name. I'll just ask this, are you asking as chief or as a resident?
I'm asking as Gina,
Okay.
not chief.
Okay, so
I just
then
have-
you need to state your address.
Gina Lindell, Foster Center Road, 94 and a half. Grant, how many dogs constitute a kennel for boarding? Yeah. 5. And what about the other one?
That's
Was it boarding and breeding?
Breeding.
Oh, breeding is different. Breeding is babies. You've got 100 of them, but just boarding is 5 plus. Okay, thank you. That was all. That was my question.
Okay. But that's if they're not your dogs.
Yeah.
If you got your own, if you own those dogs.
That's paid.
Right.
Dropping off.
There's also.
So I should have mentioned this.
That's held for kennel licenses. Kennels are businesses. Every business is a development plan review or a minor land development, both on
The planning board.
So a structured way and
The way that Foster's code reads, the hearing should actually be held at the planning
stage. Planning.
to then streamline the process of the council meeting.
Can I, so just in case, we had a lot of trouble with kennels recently and a lot of dialogue and a lot of Facebook and social media discussions going on. I talked to Grant and Anthony about this. It's best for the planning board to do it because they have the experts, they have the time, they can research, they can make sure everything's appropriate. When it comes to us, like it did last year, it's very difficult because we're asking questions for the very first time and we don't have all the vetting capability that the planning board has. So it just makes more sense to give it back to them.
And that would only be for initial licenses. Yeah, for the first time. Once you renew, which will be covered in the next section, you wouldn't have to go in front of the planning board.
Does anyone have any questions? Mrs. Rao? You need to come up again.
Sure.
No, just you push the microphone down so we can all hear you.
Okay. How many dogs are?
5 and more.
Right.
Okay, do they have license like,
Insurance in case they bite somebody?
The boarding.
Yeah,
People that-
if you have 5 dogs or more.
There is a list of different requirements that they have to meet.
coverage, extra stuff?
Dog bite somebody, right?
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
You understand?
And
what I'm saying?
that's part of, that's not up for discussion tonight. Well, not in this, spot, it's in a different section.
Okay,
Okay,
It's in the license application process, Mrs. Brown. License application process handles all that.
Can I ask Grant a question?
go right ahead.
What, or how technical is the site plan review that goes before the planning board?
You-
Do they just sketch something out and say, I'm gonna have this run here, this, or this housing here, and I'm just curious as to how detailed that is. You don't need like a professional to do it. Somebody can just come before you and say, this is my plan.
So if you read the section 38-394 for development plan review, there's I think 22 different items that are listed. It doesn't require a class 1 boundary survey.
Okay.
It does require technically some type of professional to put together either an architectural rendering or something that the planning board understands and is clear. But the planning board's also able to waive any requirement for an application. So we could greatly reduce the requirements for kennels. We could basically say, all right, everyone who has a kennel has to do items, for example, 3, 7, 12, and 20, and the rest of them wouldn't apply.
I'm just curious, like for somebody who's going to have a little doggy daycare with 6 dogs, do they need to go through the expense of having a professional draw up their plans? And I mean, is that?
They probably don't. And like I said, the planning board could waive that requirement.
Okay.
It's gonna be a work in progress. This is the first time they're taking it back.
Yeah, no, I just don't, then it probably isn't feasible for somebody to go through the expense of paying a professional when they're gonna put out 6 little dog runs. You know what I'm saying?
If I'm wrong, Grant, usually someone that's going to be applying comes to meet with you first. And you can decide what's.
Yeah, that's
applicable
an
and-
option, and it's actually covered later in this hearing, pre-application conferences. We're not allowed to legally require someone to do that, but it is encouraged. And any business, a kennel being a business, does require what's listed in that section. Planning anything. Hey, give us something that is understandable. We can waive the requirement for a professional to submit this. You could do it yourself.
I think the planning board would weigh those things. Okay, go ahead. Anybody else? Any questions? Okay, Grant, go ahead.
Okay, so section 8-222 renewal. This is stating that a renewal of a kennel license would not have to go in front of the planning board for the development plan review. And it clears up the license fee for class A's and class B's. Currently, the class A license is $25 and the class B license is $25, but state law says that class B licenses, which are boarding kennels, come with a fee of $50, and the $25 is what state law says for breeding kennels, which are class A licenses.
question then. We just went through this with that lady.
Yep.
And it was said that she'd have to come back before us. We had doubts, we had concerns.
Right.
So would this eliminate that? But she wouldn't have to?
If she's going to the first, she would go to the planning board would review
But
it.
she's
all,
already done it.
And
We
then
gave her
planning
the
board-
license. You know the one? I mean?
Right, I know who you mean. So she's a renewal.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
she would be a renewal. But if we had stated that if there were any concerns that were brought forth to us, then we would address it at
So
that
we
time.
could still do it.
We can still. do
Yeah,
that.
so basically, any kind of law that comes into effect after somebody has had an existing use gives that person who had the legal existing use non-conforming or grandfathered rights. So this person that we're speaking about would have the grandfathered rights to not have to go in front of the planning board because she would be renewing her license. So the council would just have to have its licensing procedure as usual because it is a boarding kennel.
Right, and so we could review it.
Okay.
As needed.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding that? Go ahead, Grant.
Section 1231, it's currently titled renewal or transfer. The proposal is to retitle this section application renewal or transfer. And this is referring to business licenses. So currently we only list renewals or transfers being covered. Under the section, it makes sense to hold initial applications to a standard and renewals and transfers to different standards. So subsection 1 is for the planning board, similarly to the kennel licenses we just talked about. Any business needs to go in front of the planning board for a development plan review or a minor land development, depending on how the use meets the definitions in state law. Subsection 2, and this is where there was a lot of discussion at the last meeting, is relating to background checks. So I worked with the town clerk and a couple of the other town hall staff members on coming up with a solution to this. And what we came up with was for applications, initial applications and transfers, a BCI would be required. And for renewals where the same person who's been previously established by the police as being okay to run their business, they would just need approval from the police chief. The police chief would basically do a less thorough investigation than a BCI for someone who was simply renewing as opposed to transferring their business license to a different person or somebody who was simply applying for the business license. And then subsection 7 is for dumpsters, and it says every business is required to have a dumpster. And we actually do in this section list that the town council could waive the requirement for a dumpster if it causes an undue hardship, but I would imagine that would be in very limited circumstances.
Grant, I have a question. I missed this. So in the transfer process, we're dumbing down, for lack of a better term, the transfer process for somebody who's like, if I'm transferring my license to you, why wouldn't it trigger the same type of an investigatory check as a new applicant?
It does.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask you, Grant, where you were just talking about the dumpsters?
Yes.
So say if this was at a residence
Mhm.
and they have 6 dogs, which really how much waste are they going to produce? Is this where you're saying that the planning board could waive a dumpster? Because really, if it's a residence and you're running a
He's saying the
business.
council could.
Yeah, the council could waive it, and additionally in section in the previous hearing, 1248, it says dumpsters are not required for businesses
But yeah, that they.
conducted as home
Just a
occupation.
home occupation. Okay, so that covers that, right? That was my question about that.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Any other questions on regarding that? Go ahead, Grant.
So chapter 12, businesses, section 1234, license for sale of alcohol. At the last meeting, I didn't have the actual current figures for the renewal fees and application fees. So currently for the sale of alcohol, it's $400, and the initial license fee for sale of alcohol is proposed to increase to $500, and the renewal fee would match the fee for the initial license. So each year you renew, it would be a $500 fee. Currently, it's $400.
Okay.
Uh,
Thank you for getting that research. Thanks, Grant.
So section 1235 is the license for entertainment.
Yes. Do you have any questions regarding that? So basically, it's increasing from $400 to $500. Thank you. Go ahead, Grant.
Section 1235 is the license for entertainment. Currently, it's $200, and the proposal is for initial fees and renewals to be a $300 fee.
Any questions regarding that? Okay, go ahead, Grant.
License for a campground, currently it's $50, and it's proposed for the initial and renewal fees to be $100.
Any questions on that? Go ahead, Grant.
Section 1237, license for hotel motel. Currently, there is no fee. The proposal is to increase the fee to $100 initial and renewal.
Right, thank you. Any questions on that? Go ahead, Grant.
Section 1238, license for pawn shop. Again, currently there is no fee. The proposal is to increase the non-existent fee to $100 for both initial applications and renewals.
Any questions on that? Okay, go ahead, Grant.
Section 1239, the license for sale of secondhand articles is currently $25. And the proposal is to increase the initial and renewal fees to $100.
Any questions on that? Okay. Go
So-
ahead.
Section 1240, license for private detective, currently at $65, and the proposal is to increase the initial and renewal license fees to $100.
Any questions on that one? Okay. Moving on to the theater.
Yep, section 1241, license for theater. Currently, there's no fee if you want to have a theater in Foster. The initial license fee and renewal would be proposed to be $100.
I have a question on that. Are you talking about theater as in like a movie theater, not like Swamp Meadow when they did their?
That's a good question because I don't think theater is really defined anywhere, but we do have it. I pulled these figures from the business license application that the town currently has, and it just says theater.
Is there an event fee? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's I think the event fee is in a different section of
It is.
chapter 12, yeah.
It is. So what I'm thinking is there's an overlap. So if I don't have a theater, but I set up a screen, I need an event gathering permit. Should cover it, no?
Yeah, I think it would, and it might get interesting to say which one should you apply for. I would imagine if it's an event, that implies a temporary use, a one-time thing, a couple times. A theater would be an established long-term use, probably.
I think our solicitor has an answer.
I think we're getting words confused because event and temporary mass gathering permits are listed specifically for mobile food establishments. There's an entertainment license, but that entertainment license is solely for something where you're charging it's public access, but you're charging them an entry fee.
Oh, good point.
That's how the ordinance is currently
So it
written.
won't come. There's no-
Okay.
So
Sorry-
then,
Sorry, Grant. I tried.
so
I didn't know either.
Swamp Meadow is no longer in Foster. But
No, it's not. And the only fee I think they were paying eventually was for Isaac Payne School to use the school. Yeah, I don't know. We might need to revisit that one and
Yeah.
clarify it, I think, or make a
Because I
motion
would
to
hate
clarify
to-
it.
yeah, I would hate to penalize them
Yes.
for, okay. Thank you, Grant.
If you're looking to do something different for nonprofit, is Swamp Meadow a nonprofit? Is that
Yes.
there like so you could also, part of the public hearing is when you approve it, you could also approve it, but not have a fee for nonprofits or things like that. That's your ability during this hearing.
Thank you. Go ahead, Grant.
Section 1242, license for auto repair. Currently, there is no fee, and the proposals for the initial and renewal fee to be $100.
Any questions regarding that? Hearing none. Go ahead, Grant.
Section 1243, license for preparing food, victualling. Currently, it's $25, and the proposals to increase the initial and renewal fees to $100.
Any questions on that? Hearing none. Oh, go ahead.
Would that mean like Old Home Days or something like that where they?
Well, that's
sell
a mobile food establishment, right?
Well,
They
they
don't-
have their own kitchen and stuff like that. I don't know.
They are totally.
Yeah, they're licensed themselves.
Okay. They don't pay anything to the town?
Yeah.
Well, they pay to be
They get food
here.
truck
Yeah,
permits, so.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on, Grant.
Section 1244, license for automobile junkyard. Currently, the fee is $25, and this is only for renewals because you can't, you can't have an initial one, so the renewal fee would be $100 as proposed.
Don't, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
What was it originally?
25.
It's 25.
It was 25.
Nice wedding gift.
Yeah, and the way it's written, we should probably cross out the first sentence in that line. The first sentence reads initial license for automobile
Yep.
junkyard. Yeah, just cross that out and say the renewal fee is 100.
Right, because there is no longer. So,
Thank you, Grant.
are you raising your hand, Mrs. Rao?
Yes, but it's for a question before. Earlier, but I have to ask.
Mrs. Rao, come on up.
Thank you, because it says here they're charging $100 for a hotel motel application, right?
Oh, we're way back there. Okay.
And then up here we say that somebody who has alcohol, this license is $500. Now this hotel motel, well, maybe have alcohol too. So theoretically, the cost should be higher there.
Solicitor's going to answer that.
They're separate. So if a hotel is also going to be serving alcohol, they have to have a hotel license and an alcohol license.
But
They have to do both.
they have to do both, but it
Yes.
doesn't say it here. And
No,
it is
but-
put that we are charging $100 for stuff which is much less intrusive.
But
than
Mrs.
the-
Rao, if you recall last time, Mr. Stone and I had a discussion about that as to having some establishments have multiple licenses, which is fine. But they might be paying an extraordinary amount for those licenses.
The
So
$100
some-
definitely for hotel motel for initial is not enough if we are charging $100 for all the other things here. That's not enough. That's
Thank
all I'm
you.
saying.
We'll keep that
Thank you.
under advisement. There we go. Continuing, license flea market.
Yep, section 1245. Currently, there is no fee for a license for a flea market, and the initial and renewal fees are proposed to be $100.
Any questions on that? Okay, retail holiday sales?
Section 1246, license for retail / holiday sales. Currently, that license fee is $25, and the initial and renewal license fees for those types of sales is proposed to be $100.
Any questions on that? Moving on,
Section 1247, license for gravel dumps, natural material products and sorting, mining, quarrying. Currently, we do not have a license for any of those type of earth removal uses. And the proposal is for initial license fees and renewal license fees to be $100. This one is a little bit lengthier. The initial license may be issued by the town council on the conditional grant of special use permit by the planning board. So basically, the planning board could issue a special use permit conditioned on the council giving the license. So prior to a renewal of a license for any of those uses, inspection of the premises would be made by the zoning enforcement officer to determine that the conditions of the special use permit, if there were any, and of the soil erosion and sediment control plan, which is also required to be filed for one of those kinds of uses. He needs to make sure that those are being complied with. And then following the denial of a license renewal under this section, or if the license expires and the person conducting that use no longer wishes to continue the use, or basically they voluntarily withdraw it. Upon voluntary cessation, anything that they choose to just no longer have that use. Upon completion of removal in a substantial area, the entire area that was used for an extractive earth removal use would need to be restored as far as DEM permits that to be restored. So basically, you would need to bring the land back to its natural state as opposed to conducting earth removal. And there are some subsections as well. All land, when you're restoring it back to its natural use, would be graded so that no slope exceeds 1 foot in vertical rise and 3 feet horizontal distance. And it would be graded as to safely provide for drainage without erosion. Subsection 2, all boulders larger than 1/2 of a cubic yard shall be removed, buried, and added in or repurposed for a stone wall. Chris Stone had a good proposal to say, well, you could repurpose it as a stone wall at the last meeting, and I think that makes sense. Subsection 3, the entire area except exposed ledge rock shall be covered with not less than 4 inches of good quality loam, which shall be planted with cover vegetation adequate to prevent soil erosion, using either grasses or ground cover depending upon conditions. And lastly, the performance bond if there was one entered into, would not be released until sufficient time has lapsed to ascertain that the vegetation planted has successfully been established and the drainage is satisfactory. So again, the conditions that naturally used to exist would be getting back to normal.
Thank you. Any questions regarding that? You need to come up and state your name. Address. Sorry, Mike.
Mike Carpenter, 42 Danielson, Planning Board. Just a clarification, did you say 1 foot to 3 foot for the grade?
Yeah, all land should be graded so that no slope exceeds 1 foot vertical rise and 3 feet horizontal distance.
Okay, Dolly Coles, 1 foot for 10 feet, that's 10% grade. 30% grade, I haven't got any machines that can tolerate that. Okay, so we need to change that. Okay.
Thank you.
I took that from Western Massachusetts Communities Ordinance, and Mike has a much more technical understanding of that than I do.
Go ahead. Grant.
The next section, 12-96, application fee, renewal fee. This is for firearms dealers. So currently the fee for an application for a firearms dealer is $75. It's proposed to increase to $100. And by state law, the fee for issuing the fee by the town clerk needs to remain at $5. And a separate license would be required if somebody was to sell something other than firearms at the same location that they do sell firearms, kind of like a hotel.
Ammunition, targets.
Now, if it's related to firearms, I think that wouldn't count, but if it's things like T-shirts or something like that, then you would need a separate retail.
They used to do the bait shop.
Mentioned that
remember?
before, yes, yes.
So, yeah, they used to do
Okay.
the bait
Yeah.
shop with that. Any questions regarding that? Hearing none, go ahead, Grant.
Section 12-162, license issuance fees and limitations. This is for hawkers, peddlers, and mobile food establishments. This is a long ordinance. So I believe the council solicitor wrote in a subsection 3 on this, which is being proposed, which says that for any event where the town through a department or committee. Where are we?
License issuance.
Yeah, license. Oh, okay.
Because this is, they're voting on this, they cannot vote on that section. That section hasn't been presented to the public yet.
This section has been presented last meeting.
Not the part. The fees.
The fee pot has.
Yeah, but it's all under the same
The proposed
ordinance.
Present,
Got it. Okay, so
So that one can't be voted on tonight.
correct.
Okay.
It's gonna be, it has been advertised in,
So-
it has been advertised though, because it was advertised last week.
Be voted on.
So the fee portion can.
But
Right.
not with, not
That's
one
what I'm
twenty-one.
added for
Okay.
tonight's meeting, because that subsection has not been presented to the public yet.
Okay.
That portion of the ordinance has not had a reading yet.
Okay, so could I read it here right now and then, okay. Okay, so hawkers, do we have hawkers currently? The last meeting, it was said that we don't have them. The town clerk tells me we do have them. We do allow them.
We do
Uh,
allow them.
Yeah.
So
Two different things. Do we allow them? Do we have?
all right, yep. So hawkers, the fee is proposed to increase from $50 to $100. And we currently have this system where we charge a minimum fee or a maximum fee for the same use. We should just eliminate the minimum fee and charge one fee. So anything that's in the minimum table would need to be removed, and then we would go with a single fee. Currently, the maximum fee for a hawker is $50, so the fee is proposed to increase to $100. For peddlers, the same concept applies. It's currently $50, proposed to go to $100. Mobile food establishments would not change, except for the fact that the minimum fee would be removed. Event permits would not change, except for the fact that the minimum fee would be removed. And mass gathering permits would be only removing the minimum fee and keeping the fee at $300.
Why does it say permit to $100 on? Am I reading that?
Because we updated it, because it didn't make sense to reduce it to $100. So between last meeting and this one, I figured keep it at
So now
300.
it's $300 instead of 100?
Yeah, and it's currently
For the
$300.
mass gathering.
For the mass gathering permit, it's not $100, it's 300.
Yes, that's what it currently is. Initially, it was proposed to decrease to $100,
Okay.
but there's no point in decreasing the fee. It should be $300 in the opinion of the planning board.
Okay, I get that now. Thank you. Any questions on that? Tammy, I saw you come in. Any questions on it?
Oh, I just didn't know that fee was changing.
No, I guess it spends 300 and is staying the same.
Oh.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I told you.
Okay,
You might have somehow paid the minimum fee, and this is what we're trying to get away from, is certain people pay one thing and then someone else pays another thing. But I can't speak about what Julia wrote because that's part of the town.
right, that's the
Okay.
next. Thanks. Let's move on to the next one then, site plan reviews.
Yep, site plan review fees. This is under the soil erosion and sediment control code. And currently the fees listed in section 26-121 for subdivisions don't match the current subdivision fees. So the proposal is to bring this up to current date with what we charge for subdivision applications.
And what is that?
For a minor subdivision, $400. And then any lot exceeding one being created would be $150 for each additional lot. And on a major subdivision, the fee is $1,500 and then $250 for each lot proposed above 10. And we never see major subdivisions. It's rare we see a subdivision that creates 3 or more lots.
Thank you.
What's, Grant, what is the fee? I'm sorry.
So you said now a major subdivision would be 1,500
Correct.
and then 250 for each lot that was subdivided?
Each lot above 10. So once
above 10.
once you reach 10 lots, which basically never happens, you need to have 3,000 feet of frontage,
Right, right. So what is it currently?
1,500.
Oh, it's 1,500
That-
and so it's not gonna change.
I just was asking.
No, this is, like I said, it's being presented to
I
come
was just
into the
asking out of
current
curiosity,
fees.
Heidi. It's not changing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any questions on that? Moving on.
All right, section 3863, now we're into the zoning ordinances. The powers and duties of the zoning board are governed under Rhode Island General Law 45-2457. And the text being proposed here is to match state law verbatim in that section.
Any questions on that? Hearing none, go ahead.
Section 38-64 voting. This is governed also under Rhode Island General Law 45-2457, just subsection 2 of that section and subsection 3 of that section. So the proposal is to match state law exactly the way it's written.
Okay. Any questions on that? Hearing none, move on.
So section 3865 application procedure. This proposal is to have the language meet state law, Rhode Island General Law 45-2458. And this is a very minor amendment. Site plan review is now called development plan review. So in 45-2458, the only amendment to that section was removing the term site plan review because development plan review is already written in there. And the administrative officer prepares and publishes applications rather than the zoning official. So that change is proposed as well.
Any questions on that? Hearing none, go ahead, Grant.
So section 3867, decisions and records. This is being proposed to match Rhode Island General Law 45-2461. And this is relating to the timelines that the zoning board has to record decisions following approvals of permits.
Any questions on that? Hearing none, go ahead, Grant.
Section 38-232, existence by variance or special use permit. The only amendment here is adding in that the zoning board or the planning board at this point can grant a variance or special use permit. And that is because unified development review is required of out of locality in the state under Rhode Island General Law 452350.1.
Any questions? Hearing none, go ahead, Grant.
Section 38, 359 land development projects. This section was removed from the state's zoning enabling act and transferred over to the state's it was removed from the subdivision enabling act and transferred to the zoning enabling act. And this covers applications for multiple uses or units as opposed to just a single use of land or a single unit. So anything that's a multifamily use or anything that has a commercial use with a residential use or two different commercial uses on the same property. And so everything under subsection A is text that meets state law. Same thing with subsection B. Same thing with subsection C. And then when you get into subsection D, we're regulating the types of uses that would be allowed in a mixed use development. The number of commercial uses that you could have on one property wouldn't be able to exceed 3. And then roads, we're hoping for by August, an ordinance to come forward that any new roads in Foster would be privately created, owned and maintained. Density bonuses are just being written in to match the current density bonuses that exist in Foster. Special conditions. This is just currently written in state law, so we need to enter it into this code as well. That's under 452443. Uses in the highway commercial district that they're existing. Design standards, those were approved back in October. Expansion or enlargement, that's existing. This comes from state law in terms of fee in lieu charges. Basically, Foster does technically require open space in any subdivision unless you pay a fee in lieu. So because we do that, we have to write in subsections I, J, and K, and that's all text that is written exactly in Rhode Island General Law 452447. And then the rest of the requirements are things that are existing in other parts of Foster's code, like the development standards for general business uses and the development standards for highway commercial uses. It just makes sense to put them into this section as well.
Thank you. Any questions regarding that? Hearing none?
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
My question is about the roads. You
Yep.
said any new roads in the town of Foster will be private roads?
Yeah, that's what the planning board's been looking to.
As a
put forward.
town, we've maxed out the number of roads that we can have that can be town roads?
I don't know if we've maxed it out, but it doesn't seem like we are creating any more town roads. So it seems to make sense to allow people to create private roads and maintain it to a municipal improvement standard. And it might not be forever, just for the time being. It seems like that's a decent idea right now. And Warren Ducharme is kind of in charge of the roads technical aspects, because I don't have the brain to be able to come up with emergency turnaround widths and everything that you need to figure that out.
That one confuses me a little bit, but what about, I mean, we do have some unimproved town roads. They would still be considered town roads.
Yeah, nothing would change here. This is only for new roads.
If someone comes in and subdivides and they build a family compound.
Well, then it's a driveway.
Yeah, that's correct. It would be a driveway, but if somebody does a
That's what
subdivision
it
with
is.
a subdivision with the creation of a road is possible. We have provisions for it. And we're proposing that those would be private roads. And so the town would not have to maintain a road that somebody cut in. I guess you couldn't stop them from saying, hey, we want the town to maintain this, but we give somebody the option to put in a private road.
We do have a process where we only do a certain length of the road.
Yeah, if it's a dead end, yes.
No, if it's a private road, we only do a certain amount of it as far as.
I believe only if it's a dead end.
Oh, that would solve a lot.
Anthony Renzi, Central Pike. The reason why we're putting in the private roads for development reasons to purposely put them in when I moved to Foster. My home is at the end, it's on a town road. They went to the town hall and asked us who's gonna put the road ended, and I continued on. I asked the town who's gonna put the road in. And the woman at the desk there said, it's not on the 5-year road plan. We're not putting the road in. If you put it in, you pay for it and you maintain it. So it cost me $100,000
Okay.
to continue the road. That's, what do you mean, no?
No.
I think that's
That,
wrong.
that was wrong.
You were given wrong information.
You were given wrong
kidding.
information.
That's why we're trying,
Everybody's agreeing with.
that's why we're trying to straighten it out. I spent $100,000 continue Central Pike, which is a town road.
Yep.
To get into my driveway,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
So there is no 5-year road plan per se.
No, as far as if you've got a road,
Roads and what we're saying continuing, there are a lot of roads
right,
that.
Gold Mine is a road that
through
we
the woods, which is
extended.
fine. What we have proposed to do. The gentleman, someone here has 50, 60 acres,
Mhm.
and they're gonna put a road in, or they're gonna go in there to develop houses and so forth. And it could come out to another street, depending where all these lots are. The town one don't have the money to go in there and put the road in. That's number one. Number two, the town don't have the money to maintain it. That's number two. And number three, the developer doesn't need to go through all the whoop-de-doos they would have to do in this town. So they would put in their own road, call it their own road, have an HOA fee, whatever they want to do to maintain that road or whatever. Now, if the town was creative, they could tell those people, we will maintain that road for you after you put it in for a fee every year. We'll plow that for you for a fee every year. You know, I mean, the town drives right by all the private roads in this town. And everybody has to wonder what they gotta do. So the town could just talk to the residents or whatever and say, we'll plow that out for you during the snowstorms. Of course, you $100 a snowstorm or whatever, and we can do that. It's just a little, what the planning board's been trying to do.
I think, I think the question was though, does that mean no more town roads?
Oh, if the
But-
town wants to put in roads, yeah, knock yourself out.
But what we're
pretty much-
talking about, right,
Private development.
that's what private development,
Yeah,
yep,
okay.
got it.
Thank you.
Any other questions,
Yes,
Mrs.
I-
Rao? Can you come up here and,
Yes, I listened to this Valenci. I don't know this gentleman. And he said he lives on Central Pike. Is that correct?
yes, he did.
So he's talking about which road, which is
Central, on the other end, Cucumber, he's off of Cucumber.
and he wants to come this way to.
No, he does
Yeah,
not,
go to your front door. You're gonna put the road right-
Mr. Rents.
Not going to happen because there's wetland in the middle and that is under nature protection.
Mrs. Rao, he's not doing that. He's joking with you.
That's on the other side.
It's on the other side. He's not coming to your property, Mrs. Rao.
Then you-
Okay,
All the way.
No, I'm not doing that. That's not- no, for sure.
You put a train track down the street.
Whatever you want.
Charlie,
go ahead, Grant, to the next one.
Section 38, 387. Conference, this is something that the town currently says is required. It's a shall statement, but legally we can't say that. So we encourage people to come in for a pre-application conference for zoning projects. So the shall statement turns to a may statement. And we need to also include that under the zoning ordinance, people can apply for variances, special use permits or development plan reviews. So it wouldn't only be a site plan review, which is also an outdated term. And then everything regarding the pre-application conference purposes comes from state law.
So you're changing it from shall to may?
Correct.
Kind of like shall, so you know what's going on. So it's the money.
We can't legally require that on major subdivisions. We can legally require a pre-application meeting, but we can't require it on anything else.
I think if you're smart, you're gonna come in and meet with you.
Yes, but we can't require it.
It would save them money. Okay, go ahead, Grant. Any questions? Any questions on that? Okay, going on, Grant.
So section 38, 388, contents of site plan. This is solely being amended to fix terminology. So vesting rights should be called vested rights, and the town planner is referred to as the administrative officer most other places in the zoning ordinance. So we should keep using that language to not confuse people.
Okay. Questions regarding that? I have a question. Julia, changing the town planner to the administrative officer, does that change our charter?
No, sorry.
Thank you. Julia?
No, because even in your charter, he's not called the town planner, he's called the planning official. It's the
Okay,
position.
all right,
It's
good.
not
I'm
necessarily the
just
title,
thinking,
it's the
when we changed
the position.
financial director, that was,
What we can do is in the job description, include administrative officer.
that
as
I'm fine
like
with. Okay, great,
another term.
great. Thank you. Any other questions on that one? Go ahead, Grant.
Section 38-467, development not requiring planning board or zoning board review, meaning just a building permit. The building inspector should be titled the building official.
Thank you. Same type of question. Thanks. Any questions on that? Hearing none, I'm going to do my 3 for 3. Anyone who would like to speak in favor of any of these ordinances? Anyone that would like to speak in favor of any of these ordinances? Anyone that like to speak in favor of any of these ordinances? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition to these ordinances? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition to these ordinances? Last time,
Like to increase the fee from $100 to $500.
we took that under advice.
Thank you, that's it.
Thank you. And any further oppositions to any of these ordinances? Hearing none, I am going to close the public hearing. I'm going to open it up to the council. Do you have any questions about any particular ordinances at this time? Did your questions get resolved? Chris, last time we had some questions about that. You're all set?
Can I make a motion? We accept them as presented?
Can I just ask one
You
clarification?
absolutely can.
One thing I had questioned Julia is for the license of a hotel motel, should we remove that so Heidi can recuse herself from that one vote?
I'm licensed, well, I don't know if it would apply to me. I'm licensed by the state. I've never been licensed by the town. I mean,
So a renewal,
Right now is there's no fee, so they're saying that there's going to be a fee.
yeah,
So
a fee for renewal.
I don't,
Confirming the benefit.
So,
Yeah.
right,
I don't think
So,
it's technically
but I mean-
correct because you're in, it's directly related to a business that you own. So why would it be?
not benefiting.
she's not benefiting.
please.
Microphone.
Sorry.
She likely wouldn't have to, but she can recuse herself because there's no benefit to her. It's not like we're removing the fee, so then she would have $100 more. It's incurring
Okay,
a cost.
okay.
So there
I get
isn't a business benefit to her. It's adding more responsibility. But she can, if that's the pleasure of council, she can
Well,
recuse herself.
I respectfully.
that. Okay,
Mike,
you're right.
Mike's on.
If you want me to.
Respectfully, I disagree because she could vote no.
Yep.
Why would she be allowed?
We're gonna vote
Why
on
would it
all
be
of these.
ethical if she voted no
But-
to increase a fee that of a.
We're voting on all of them
Together.
together.
So
So she'd have to vote no on all of those other ones.
Like your suggestion, breaking it out.
If you want, we can, just like we do with the consent agenda, we can just remove, because there is one that I'd
That's a
like,
good idea.
I'd
Break it
like
up.
to remove one also.
Yeah, I
The,
like Denise's suggestion, break. it
yeah,
up.
I would make a motion to approve all of them. But I would pull, it was number 18, section 12-47.
The
That was,
gravel banks.
yeah.
Yeah,
that
we do
was-
need to
There were
refresh
some
that one.
questions. I think that one needed to be
I
cleaned
think
up.
Grant mentioned that
Yeah.
you were,
Grade.
Yeah,
didn't you say that? Yeah,
Yeah.
Grant said that
Gonna
because
revisit.
Mike brought out something, so I think that was already going to be.
Denise, did you want to qualify the theater portion?
Yeah, I
But it
did.
didn't Do a definition.
That was one of my questions is what theater means, because like if we have that Swamp Meadow come into town again, or somebody else starts a new theater, that's a nonprofit. I think that's,
I can ask Sue for a recusal. I'll recuse from that one. If somebody
Okay.
wants to make a motion to approve all the others except your.
What are the ones that you want
So,
removed, Denise? To hold?
to remove at this time, section 12-37,
Is that the hotel?
that's the hotel.
No, you won't have to if I'm recused.
Okay,
Oh,
right, so you can vote on all the others.
oh, yeah.
So I'm going to request a motion to remove section 12-37 license from hotel motel.
Mhm.
Section 12-41 license for theater. And section 12-47 license for gravel banks, natural material processing, stone crushing and sorting, mining, quarrying.
Okay,
Denise, it's not a motion to remove them. It would just be a motion to approve without
Okay.
listing those, because you go through and you list the titles to all the ordinances in the motion.
12-162 as well. We weren't able to actually vote on the whole thing.
Okay, so that's what I meant by remove the, okay, so
Alright.
what are you saying is the language I should?
So it would be a motion to approve, and then you go through and list the ordinance
Okay.
numbers, and then just leave out 1237, 1241, and 1247.
Right, 1237.
1241 and 1247.
7.
So it's number 8, number 12, and number 18.
And number
18.
8, and what was it, 8, 12?
8, 12, and 18.
Okay.
So
Alright, do you want me to make a motion for all?
could I ask a question before this happens? So the license for hotel motel, why are we removing that one?
So Heidi can recuse herself, and then we'll vote on it.
Okay, and then, also,
162.
Julia wrote something in regarding gatherings, but we weren't able to hear the full thing.
No,
Nope, so this hearing is specific just to the fees for that
Just to the
section.
fees, not-
So the other part isn't even part of this hearing. So what you have in front of you is not what the rest of us have in front of us.
Okay, so why would we decide to vote on that just to bring it back at another meeting? Why would we approve it and then approve it again?
You can approve the fee portion of it, because what we're
Right.
adding is something completely different. It's unrelated to the fee portion.
It's not regarding the fees. So the fee can stay as it is.
A section.
Right.
I just don't see why we would take any action on it until the full thing was in front of the council.
It's not any more difficult to strike it from the conversation for now.
12-162.
So it's number 20.
20. All right, so get rid of that one too. Right. So, which one's doing? I just want to make sure.
So
I got all
8, 12, 18, and 20.
18
And 20.
I'm gonna exclude those. Okay, you ready for a motion?
Yes. I
Okay,
agree.
sure.
Motion. Thank you.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the following recommendations from the planning board as presented. Section 8-126 classes.
It's 216, 8.
Oh, I'm sorry.
216.
It's amended, is written over it. I couldn't see it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
216.
Okay, I'm sorry. 8-216 classes. Do you want me to read the whole descriptions? or
No, just. a-
All right, the titles. All right, section 8-221 fees, 8-222 renewal. Section 12-31 renewal or transfer. Section 12-34 license for sale of alcohol. Section 12-35 license for entertainment. Section 12-36 license for campground. Section 12-38 license for pawn shop. Section 12-39 license for sale of secondhand articles. Section 12-40 license for private detective. Section 12-42 license for auto repair. Section 12-43 license for preparing food or victualling. Section 12-44 license for automobile junkyard. Section 12-45 license for flea market. Section 12-46 license for retail holiday sales. Section, we're not doing that one. Section 12-96, application fee, renewal fee. Section 26-121, site plan review fees. Section 38-63, powers and duties. Section 38-64, voting. Section 38-65, application procedure. Section 38-67, decisions and records. Section 38-232, existence by variance or special use permit. Section 38-359, land development projects. Section 38-387, pre-submission conference. Section 38-388, contents of site plan. Section 38-467, development not requiring planning board or zoning board approval.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I will now accept a motion to approve section 12-37 license for hotel motel. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Recused. Okay, thank you. Thank you, planning board. You're all here. Well, most of you here. My
So-
gosh.
Grant and.
Those other three.
Those other are going back.
Okay.
Great job.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Grant. Yes, my goodness.
Right. built up.
Okay, we're under,
They kind of take them behind the bar.
we are under old business and Mrs. Rao and
Everything, new hotel.
Mrs. Rao, thank you. I,
We'll tell them you want the trolley. Yeah, hotels who want to move in, or hostel, they have to pay $10 for the application. That's me anything.
oh no, there'll be more than that if they're applying for, there'll be other fees that they have to pay, Mrs. Rao, if they're gonna build.
It's a hotel, it's a hotel.
It's only for their license. They have to pay other fees to build.
Yeah, but they have to get a license, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mrs. Rao. Have a good night. So next on our agenda is the police building update. We have not had a meeting with the police building committee, but I did have a meeting with Mr. Walsh, Representative Chippendale and Senator Reed this week. Yes, it was this week, to see if there were any monies available at the federal level for us to get some monies. Senator Reed noted that they cannot give monies to the police department, but they have lots of money for the fire department. So I have passed along that information to the fire departments to have them seek out. They did take a tour of the police station. They took lots of pictures of the police station. So hopefully it stays in their mind. Then this week also, I had a luncheon with the governor at the State House, along with Situate, Coventry, Charleston, I think Richmond was there. And we discussed what our concerns are. Some of the things that were brought out were these ordinances, and that we're not a cookie cutter. And when I was asked what our concern is, and I said our concern is that we have no revenue other than our taxpayers, and that we need to build a new police station. And the governor, the last time he'd visit us, had toured the police station. So I asked him for $3 million. They suggested that I buy a bridge or jump off a bridge. They suggested, well, Coventry was asking for a lot, so I thought I would. So they suggested that I reach out to our senator and representative, and I said that we have. Mr. Walsh has also reached out to them. They knew of Mr. Walsh. So that was some of the suggestions that were made. Someone else, one of the other staff members of Governor Gary, oh my gosh. Oh, wow. Sorry. It's the H. He suggested some things that we have already done as far as replanning and doing various things. So it didn't look as hopeful as I thought. They did say that their budget that Mr. Walsh and Representative Chippendale are looking at the budget and asking that, you know, how Joe was saying, if it's a regional thing, they get 5 million.
Yeah.
Up to 5 million, and we should be able to get up to 2.5 million. So, I have been out there
Thank you.
trying to ask and see what we can get.
Thank you.
It doesn't look so much, I know.
That's awesome.
So it, hopefully, we'll get something. It sounded more promising with Senator Reed than it did with, but it wouldn't be until the fiscal year 20.
So Denise, I did speak to Gordy today because today or yesterday, I'm sure because we've told you regarding the architect. Because we haven't heard, and I started looking at the budget schedule and getting a little nervous because whatever information we need to move forward with this, we're gonna need by April in order to really include this in our budget going forward. So he actually reached out to Rouse Architects and they said they are finalizing a what do you want to call it?
Plan?
No, they're finalizing a quote to draw up the next plan, that the revised.
A quote or an RFP?
No, a quote because you're asking them to revise the plan. So they're gonna submit a quote to you within, we should be receiving it tomorrow to Monday. They'll start working on it as soon as we discuss or approve this quote. And then, hopefully the turnaround so that we can get out for another send out for another RFP.
So
that we
Gordy
can get
knows that
this.
so that a meeting can be called.
So what I'm saying too is that I think that we might have to schedule another meeting. So if we get this Friday or Monday, you're going to have to schedule some sort of a meeting next week to approve this so that they can get going. We can't wait 3 weeks or
No.
even 2 weeks so that they start working on the revision, because that's going to take some time. And then we have to go out for an RFP. That's going to take a month. So we're really cutting it close for our financial town meeting. That's
Thank
all
you.
I know. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Renzi. It's turned off. No, you have to turn it on. You have to state your name and address. Thank you. It's on now.
I start feeling like I'm at the Congress. Mr. President, no, okay.
It's not Mr., it's Mrs.
Turned it off.
You turned it off. It's still off. There you go.
I haven't been to any of the meetings because of the frustration with the police department, with the building committee. Frustrated up to here. Spent 7 years on it myself personally, and I'm just gonna say 2 things, and something came across today. I don't know if many of you've seen it. That's great that you went and talked to the people. You asked for 3, they give you 1, we're ahead of the game. That's a good job.
Thank you.
But the problem, what we're trying to do is take a $9 million project, stick it into a $4 million project. You need to build a $4 million project. That's one. And just make it go from there so that you can add on. 2, reading the paper today, Gloucester's putting in, I don't know if anybody's seen it, which blew my mind. So before you give this new architect any money, okay, and this is what I would say at the next meeting. In the article in the Valley Breeze, they're going up for either remodeling or a new building. $13 million for a 9,000 square foot police station. They have their estimates at They said because they need to do it right away because the cost of everything's going up. They're at $780 a square foot. We're at 1,500. Okay? This architect has known we only had 4 or 5 million from the get-go. And he puts out a product that costs us 9 million. I'm not happy with it as a taxpayer, as a building committee member. And when I read in the paper that they're gonna have a police station almost doubled ours for $4 million more. I don't know what math we're using, but it doesn't seem right. And they're only paying,
Bless you.
bless you, their quotes are half of what our quote is per square foot.
That's key.
So it's in the Valley Breeze. I mean, I was like, and oh, that's the most important thing. And they got 2 grants, a cop grant, they call it, for some money.
Bless you.
What I do, it's my cologne. There's a cop grant and there was another grant that they got. I don't know what they were, what it was.
But it's in the paper?
No, it's right in the Valley Breeze, pull it up.
Okay.
What's a cop grant?
I don't know, pull it up, that's what.
Do we
the
have to
cop-
be accredited to get it?
Federal program, and actually the grant.
And that's our problem, Mr. Renzi, is that we are not accredited because of our building. So we
I
can't
don't think-
apply for many grants.
I don't think their building's accredited either, it's falling apart on the inside. Their old building, their building's 50 years old, 40 years old.
No.
Gloucester?
Gloucester? No, it's not.
Really?
No,
According to the paper.
no. Gloucester.
Put up for it.
I'm sure, I'm not doubting that use, but it's not 40 years. It might have said that.
It's
No, in the 80s is 40.
It was built in my time.
I lived in Gloucester, okay?
Was there when I
Moved here 20 years, and I lived in Gloucester 20 years. That was there when I moved there. 20 and 20 is 40. I'm not far off.
Yeah, when
I'm just saying, it was built in my lifetime.
Yeah, I lived on Snake Hill Road.
Oh, that's 35.
Anthony,
right.
I lived on Snake Hill Road, and in 1993, 1995, it was there.
Okay, so we'll.
So you're not far off.
So do the gazintas.
Yeah, not far off.
Thank you, Mr. Renzi.
It goes back up fast.
It does.
Right in the center of town.
I can go.
Yeah. Go in the restroom and then tell him where to find the password.
That's what the investment.
So,
Chief Lindell.
may I?
Yes.
Chief Lindell, first of all, I want to put it out there that Madam President is trying. Okay, she's going out on a limb, she's talking to people, and we did have the Senator Joe Walsh, Rep Chippendale, and the Chief of Staff for Senator Reed stop at the police station. And what I wanted to tell you is that I have mentioned this multiple times about I don't see the world through rose-colored glasses, but I'm an optimist. And I understand that you guys have been dealing with this for way longer than I have, but there's been things that I've dealt with too in my life that weren't supposed to happen. And they did. And they do. And so that's what I believe, that there's always a way. I've always said that there's always a way, but I really believe that the visit that we had last Thursday, and it was very impromptu, no one expected it. Thank God I was having a good hair day because Mr. Franco called me and said, we're coming over. And I said, well, when? And she said, we're walking over right now. So, and it was good because what can you do over there anyways to prepare? You can't make it prettier, you can't make it bigger, you can't make it more policey. But they came in, we keep it as neat and as tidy as we can. But the senator had some very, very good questions for me, i.e., so at least you have 2 or 3 officers per shift on the road. Then I explained to him that we have 1 per shift, 1. And he's a military man. He's a soldier. He knows what he's talking about and he understands. That I think blew him away more than anything in terms of what people don't realize we're lacking here. And so I really believe, I feel that that visit is going to generate some sort of revenue.
I hope so.
And you always have to ask high, everybody. You always have to start high. When you sell a car, you sell it for $20,000. You know it's only worth 12, but you say 20 and you hope for 15. That's how you do it. So, Madam President, saying that you asked for 5 or 3 or whatever, and we're going to get something. I'm confident that we're going to get something. The other thing that I wanted to say was, we are working on getting some new officers. This is the old police news. And so we may have another person coming on, but just know that, and I see the Facebook posts. I see Facebook posts about where are we? We're out there. I've got one human being from 7 to 3, 3 to 11, and 11 to 7. I got one human being in this whole town. So don't ask why we're not on Cucumber Hill, why we're not on, we're out there as much as we can. We do not have guys that stay in the building. I don't allow it. So just know that we were so busy today. We had to call in another body on his day off. I was running to calls myself. So just know that we're out there and we're working for you, but I do believe that this is going to happen.
I've seen you out there, Gina, everywhere. I've seen them. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Lindell. Moving on to mass gathering ordinance.
So the council had asked, I believe at the request of the Recreation Committee, that there be an amendment to this ordinance regarding the public hearing aspects of the temporary mass gathering permit and the event permit portion. I did put something together, some wording that the council, that seemed to be what the council wanted. I have concerns about applicability as far as, treating town-sponsored or town-associated projects differently than non-town associated events. So my suggestion would be that we revamp this portion and take out the public hearing portion for everybody and maybe require mailing notices. And then if you are also going to permit town-sponsored or town-associated events, that before we enact this change, the council come up with a procedure for town-wide policies so that no one has questions. So that the town can only be associated with, events on public property, not someone's backyard, things like that.
May I hear what you wrote? I
Sure.
wasn't here at that meeting,
No,
I think. You got it, it's in your sugar sink.
It's highlighted in yellow, but I can read the portion. So it's under subsection F, and it's number 3. For any event where the town through department and or committee is a sponsor and or coordinator of the event, no public hearing shall be required for the issuance of any event or temporary mass gathering permit. The town council may issue such event and or temporary mass gathering permit at a regularly scheduled public meeting of the town council upon presentation by the department and or committee associated with the event. Any application for an event and or temporary mass gathering permit made by a town department and or committee is still subject to all other above described requirements. So this still have to have the insurance, still have to have all the proper licensing, et cetera. But I do have applicability concerns and concerns down the road that something could pop up. So I think we need to flesh this out a little bit more. I don't think it's a quick bang, bang turnaround. As far as this amendment, I think it would have to be a ordinance-wide amendment. And I think there should be policies put in place for town-sponsored or town-coordinated events. But I can get it turned around by a meeting where it is properly advertised.
Okay, so we would have to advertise it as a public hearing.
Because it's any sort of ordinance amendment requires the 2 readings.
So that would give us
Is food truck considered a mass gathering?
It's
the event.
It's the event portion of it. Yeah, it's part of that
But
ordinance.
isn't it 500 or more?
No, so it's 2 or more food trucks requires the event permit, and the event permit also triggers the public hearing. So it's and or.
And we
But
need you.
It's not always mass gathering.
I need you to go up there, state your name.
The event permit is part of it. So those are 2 different things. The event permit also triggers a public hearing.
Okay. Tammy Steinkamp, Cucumber Hill Road.
Okay.
Julia, I have a question. Was this something you want to refer back to the planning board to flesh out?
I don't think it's necessary. I mean, if the planning board wants to do it, I don't think it's necessary because the planning board didn't have a hand in this ordinance originally.
Okay.
Okay.
This ordinance is strongly based on state law because you're limited on fees, you're limited on what requirements you can have because you can't go above and beyond the state
And-
requirements.
It had been written up before. So basically, you're asking us to put it off until,
Just, you need to properly advertise it for an amendment for this particular purpose, and I will get something.
Mrs. Dillon, how long would that take?
So the next meeting.
So the
I
next
could get, I
meeting.
could get something turned around for the
Okay,
next meeting.
and that
And I
would help you too, so then we could get our food, your food trucks.
Yeah, it's, well.
Okay.
He's looking to it, 2.5 cities.
Okay.
He's looking to, do, so we need approval before he can.
What was the first date? I forgot.
16.
Yeah.
June
June
21st? Okay. All right. So yeah, we got,
Well,
but he wants to advertise. it
right,
again.
he wants to
Yeah.
advertise.
And I would suggest that when we put it on the agenda for that next meeting, that we have this as a hearing. But then in new business, we have policies for town sponsored events
Okay.
under this ordinance, and then we can flesh out what we want for policies, and then everything can go into effect on the same night, and then everything's ready to go.
Mass gathering and policies. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Rao.
Can I add one more question?
Of course you may.
Since this is a public gathering, is the town liable if somebody breaks their leg on the town?
Insurance.
That is not specific to this, so this isn't about a specific gathering, so that would be a case by case factual basis that cannot be answered without actual facts.
Okay, the point I am making is. We have enough money to pay legal bills if something happens.
Insurance.
We have,
They have insurance.
we have insurance.
And we require insurance
And
for
they have
those.
a police person, a ship, right?
I can't answer. That's.
That is not a very good thing.
Thank you, Mrs. Rao. All right, then moving on. We have the appointment of the Technical Review Committee members. If you recall, Grant, if you want to join us. Grant had mentioned this previously at a previous meeting, and we had some discussion as to whether or not it needed to be a charter change, et cetera. We vetted that out, and it does not. It would be considered a subcommittee, if you will, of the planning board. But it would still need to be appointed by the council. Within your packet, you have the list of the current planning board meetings. It's my understanding that you would meet the planning board members, not meetings, planning board members. But it's my understanding that you would meet prior to your regular planning board meeting.
Yeah, if there was
If
anything
there's a need
for,
for it.
yeah, if there's a need for it, it would be.
So it's
an hour
not an
before the planning
additional
board
night,
meeting.
it's just, so. What is the pleasure of the council?
So the members that we have here is basically the entire planning board.
It
Yes,
is, it
it
is
is.
the planning board.
So we're just gonna appoint them. Okay.
And that they,
Should we
whatever
name
their
them-
term
name
is,
them individual?
whatever their term left is.
This will correspond.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
so-
corresponds. So if somebody's got 2 years left, they're
Right.
2 years on the technical.
I
review.
would, yeah, I think your motion would be to, I think you should do two motions. One, that the technical review committee would be the planning board members, and then two, appoint them for the remainder of their planning board term.
That's the second motion.
Yeah.
Okay, I would make a motion to appoint the following to the Technical Review Committee. Anthony Renzi, Michael Carpenter, Susan Joyce, David Paolisi, Bill Gibb, Warren Ducharme, Hillary Downs Fortune. Do we need to appoint you too, or you're just? part of it?
By state law, the administrative officer is the chair.
Is automatically.
I second
Chair of the technical.
Correct.
So, and.
Okay.
I second.
Congratulations.
And Grant McGregor as chair.
Second.
Okay. And seconded discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
I,
Opposed? Okay,
I will make a.
1 second.
wait,
Second
Grant, we got a
motion.
second motion.
Yep, second motion. I'll make a motion that the individuals appointed to the Technical Review Committee serve the same, how do I put this? The same terms as,
Corresponds to.
well, corresponds to the number of years or the term on the
Planning board.
planning board.
Second.
Discussion. So basically, if you've got 3
Two-
years left to
yeah.
the planning board, you got 3 years on the technical
Exactly.
review. If you got 5 years
Mm.
left, like Mr. Renzi, then he has 5 years left on the technical review committee. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Grant.
Thanks.
Thank you, Grant. Okay. Under new business, we already discussed the Foster Gloucester Regional. At our last council meeting, we had a motion to discuss only the dates for our budget workshops. You have in your packet here the dates that we had discussed. I put it on the agenda so that we could adopt them. So.
Nothing's changed.
No, you're looking through your packet. So if you look at the first page, that's the one that we're gonna follow throughout the whole season, the budget season. So I put in there, and I did confirm with Cheryl today that she could attend most of these meetings as well. So the first meeting is 3/5, beginning at 4:30. You'll see the schedule attached. We just started it because we're asking people to get back to us regarding this. And then, the actual workshops themselves will begin on 3/7, then 3/12 and 3/14. So Cheryl did indicate that she will not be able to attend the first meeting of 3/5 on 3/5, but basically that's the meeting where everybody just gives you you'll already have your packet.
Right.
They go over any points that they want. You very rarely ask any questions. It's just mostly a presentation and absorption of the budget as a whole. And then we start with the more detailed review on March 7th. So this entire packet has gone out to every single member of like all the departments that are
budget.
yeah, who are responsible for the budget. All of the fire companies, at least one person, their chief or the person who does their budget has received this request. So we are trying to gather a schedule. So if you see the first meeting, that's always the longest because you meet with every department head. After that, we're trying to keep it from 4:30 to 6:30 because after that, the building is being used in other ways. And honestly, you just stop.
Your
being
brain
able
gets
to absorb it.
Yeah.
So I've asked that everybody try to attend the 5th. If not, you will have that budget in your packet and I can go over summarize the main points of it as I put it all together. And that they attend one of the following meetings.
I will be out of town at a conference.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the dates for the budget preparation schedule for fiscal year 2025 as follows: March 5th, 2024 at 4:30, March 7th, 2024 at 4:30, March 12th, 2024 at 4:30, and March 14th, 2024 at 4:30.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Once the schedule is fully filled in for each meeting, you'll have it in front of you. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Great.
Now we move on to executive session.
We're not reading Gina's letter.
I'm going to ask at this time, Mr. Renzi, before you all leave, okay, thank you. Shall, thank you for coming.
Before you do your,
Yes, we will. We will. Yes. So you don't want to walk out.
Do you want me to recuse?
Are we gonna,
Thank you.
are we doing both? at the same
So
time?
he can read the motion. You guys can deal with this.
You don't want to discuss the lease and the police contract. We can't, because we can't vote on the police building contract because it wasn't on the agenda. Left it.
I didn't even realize that it got close to done.
No, we're not. Okay, we
Oh, okay.
discussed.
Oh, all right.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
I'll let you know.
Bye, ladies.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I'll get a recuse.
Bye, Mrs. Rao.
Okay,
Bye, Mrs. Ryder. Use this.
that goes to Sue
See you, Dylan.
and